All right, we'll just start. Okay. Call this meeting of July 27th to order.
Establish a quorum.
Yes, establish a quorum, please.
Okay, Board President Bella,
Here.
Board Vice President Zuka,
Here.
Board Member Jordan,
Here.
Board Member Wheeler,
Here.
and just note that Board Member Schmidt is absent today. He let us know that he was not going to be here. Attending from staff is the Interim General Manager Ramirez, Assistant General Manager Wolfing, Administrative Services Manager Madrid is out today, and our Chief Financial Officer temporary, Lavoisier, he is here. District Council is here. District Engineer is here. Brandon is here for Jubin. And then we also have a special guest. We don't always have our Water Resources Coordinator, Brandon Spears, is here.
Very
So
good.
we've got a quorum.
Quorum. Thank you so very much. And now if you could please stand and you could lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance.
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Very well. Thank you. Public comments?
No comments. We've received none either.
All right, good. Move on to the next item, which is the agenda review. And again, addition and deletion are the pulled items from anyone. Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Okay, any questions or comments on that? None, we hear a motion? Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Cool. Hearing an appeal is none. We go on to item number 7, which is the 2016 to 21 capital improvement program and COP financing. Who's gonna take this one? Pat?
Well, I'll introduce it.
Yes.
So, this is our semi-annual report on how we're doing
Mhm.
on our COP program. And so Al's gonna give a report, and then Dan Bergman from IDF Services is here on Zoom, and he'll give a report as well.
Yeah, I'll just briefly cover it because Dan, will go into more detail. The staff report notes, the proceeds, which obviously hasn't changed, and the original transfer of the project funds. So the project costs to date have been updated. We're up to 15 million. Have received well over 900,000 in dividends. So leaves the balance of just a bit under 5 million, 4,984,000 left to spend. I will say the last 2 requisitions that aren't reflected in here total over 800, almost 900,000. So, it is being spent fairly quickly at this point. The next page, same information is shown again. How the 42,000 transfer was arrived at is shown. And then listing of the project costs and then the dividends prior to this year and then, full year. So at this point, I would say, Dan can take over.
Dan?
Thank you. Hello, board. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. So this is a report that's in a series of mini reports at this point that I provided for the 2016 COPs. Before the meeting this evening, I was just reflecting that as a result of this ongoing reporting that I've done for you, you essentially have a perfect history of the spending, since that's been my singular focus. And so here we go again. As of June 30th, 2023, as you already heard, there's about $5 million left. Spending during the last 6 months was about $600,000, of which about $300,000 I had included in the last report because of when the checks were cut. As you look at your board package, pages 51 and 52, you can see the values for every single month, all the way back to the beginning. And at the very end, $942,000, which was what the bank statements reflected for the past 6 months. And when we go to table 2, which I think is the next page after that one, page 54. Page 54, one more.
One more?
Yeah.
Second.
506.
There you go. So this identifies the requisitions 93 through 91. It allocates the payments by project. And this reconciles perfectly to the BNY statement, Bank of New York statements. And then backing up to table 3 on the previous page. Somehow they got crisscrossed. That's probably my fault. Here you see the total spending, COP dollars spent, $15.1 million. And what I want to point out now, as a result of ongoing discussions with Rena and Jubin, we've been trying to spend the remaining $5 million. The sort of endpoint has been extended a couple of times. It's extended again, in this case, to June of 2024 from December of this year. But what we can clearly see at this point is the combination of the Old County Road project and Harbor Boulevard water main repair will easily exhaust the remaining funds. It's just a matter of getting those 2 projects done. And then finally, when you look at the spending trend, which is page 55 of the council of the board packet, you can see where we are at 15.1, $5 million left. It gave us another 6 months to July of 2024 to get it done. But as I have reported to you every time, every dollar has been accounted for. There is a record of where every dollar has been spent, and it is all in accordance with the 2016 COPs. And that is it.
Thanks, Dan.
This is just a report that the board's receiving. There's no action for the board to take, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask staff.
Yeah, so, obviously, when we started, the evaluation of the project was a lot different than what we're seeing now. So I'm assuming that there's going to be some projects that we thought were going to be completed, that may not be completed.
Could be, that's an interesting thing that maybe what we can do at a future board meeting is bring back to you like a list of the projects that we originally contemplated that we were going to spend this money on, and then compare that with what actually, we spent and see how many projects we got done. Because if you remember, and this meeting kind of goes back to the discussion we had when we met 2x2 with the City of Belmont officials. I mean, we kind of rearranged the capital plan to kind of take into account when they were planning on doing some street improvements, and we had a water main improvement, but it wasn't a higher priority one. So we actually came to you folks and we moved it up to make it a higher priority to get it done so you could do the work. So things like that happen, not too often though. So I think it'd be a good exercise for us, excuse me, to again, maybe take a look at originally what had been adopted by the board, and then kind of see where we're at now as we're finishing up the program, the $20 million. Yeah.
Rena?
Yeah.
So thank you for that, because I've already done it. It's on table 3 on page 53, and it's the original column. So you're
Okay.
suggesting we do work that's already been done.
Yeah. Okay.
That is it.
So then if you take a look at that, the projects that are in blue were the original projects, right, Dan?
Mhm.
The
Well,
projects,
they have numbers in them.
Yes.
well, any of the ones that have numbers, because they add up to
Right,
$20,045,000.
right. So then the ones in the next next column, the updated, so there's what, 4 others that are in there that weren't in that original group, it appears.
That's correct, at the
Yeah.
bottom.
Yeah,
Right, any other comments from board members? Yeah, so, right, getting back to what we were talking about earlier. If we were to estimate the value of these projects when we first started putting them till now, I mean, what kind of percentage delta would we talking about?
well, I think you can kind of see it there, right? Actually, I think the column, that table 3, it says original 1. That's the original resolution, and that was to spend the $20 million, right? So if you look at the very bottom of that, is 20,045,000, right? And then what we've actually spent is 25 million. Of course, some of that is pay-go. So if you go to the actual spending that's in red, Dan, just maybe help me out there. So in the actual spending, you see that there's a COP spent, and then there's a pay-go spent, right? So the COP spent, looks like we spent 15.1 million. And then there's $1.3 million of pay-go that we've spent. So taking that out of capital reserves, right?
Yes, so thinking about the question being asked, to answer the question, we would take the total of the COP projects and the total of COP spent just for the COP projects. Because the 15.1 million includes more than the COP projects. I can do that.
Just to get a quick percentage so that we can even remember, that's all. All right. Anything else on this? So no action is needed, right?
No action. No.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see.
Thank you, Rena.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. I may have missed out on a meal, and it's always good to be with you.
And cookies.
More importantly, those cookies.
Thank you. Good night.
Take care, Dan.
Okay, take care. All right. Good with this. All right, number 8. Regular business agenda. Resolution 23-22, authorizing 4.9% living wage adjustment to salary ranges for all MPWD personnel. Mr. Cat?
Yes, Monique would be giving it, but she is out sick this evening, so. So if you recall, in the letter agreement from March, you all agreed to look at the CPI through June 30th and to look at increasing the salary ranges by the CPI by the 1st of August of every year for the time being. And so that's what we have in front of you. The number using the method that's been identified and used before was 4.9%. And so the attached table shows if we increase the salary ranges by that amount, and again, that's increasing salary ranges, not individuals' salaries. Under the fiscal impact section, we identify that there would be 3 employees that, based on their current compensation, they would be below the range of their classification, so they'd be bumped up. Actually, since then, we identified there's 1 person who's in the process of their review. And I don't have the numbers, so I know Monique was looking at it, but I don't have the exact number. So the direct impact of that is actually less than $7,000 because that person's getting a merit increase that we get otherwise.
Okay. So, we have seen this proposal before. It's not new for us, so. And we had, agreed with the proposal presented to our client staff. But if there are any questions or comments, please. Anything else, Kat, or from
No.
Monique?
Not as far as I know.
All right. We do have a resolution, so I would ask for a motion.
I would move approval.
Okay.
Of the resolution as presented.
Okay, very good. So we have a motion by Director Wheeler and a second by Director Jordan. On resolution 2023-22, authorizing the 4.9% living wage adjustment.
The roll call vote, so,
Director Wheeler first.
yeah, Director Wheeler first,
Yes.
Director Jordan,
Yes.
Vice President Zuka,
Yes.
and President Schmidt. Schmidt, I'm sorry, President Villa, I'm sorry.
Schmidt is so silent.
He's so silent, yeah. Sorry.
I think he's abstaining.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was a yes, by the way. All right, thank you. Thank you. All right. B. We have another resolution appointing Bailey LP as our district treasurer and accountant.
All right,
Kat,
so this one's a little more exciting. So as you all know, our former district treasurer, Sheldon Chavon, stepped down. And so when that happened, we reached out to Ide Bailey, who had previously proposed when we did the RFP for services and was our second choice. So we reached out to them and asked if they would still be interested in providing these services. And so we've been working with James Ramsey here. And he's been working very closely with Al to better understand and really know what the scope of work he would need to accomplish would be. And so he developed that scope of work, and that's included here as an attachment. And so the recommendation here is to award that contract to Ide Bailey with James Ramsey serving as our district treasurer going forward and providing the CFO services that Al's been providing, and unfortunately will not be able to continue providing into the future. So I'll ask James if you'd like to introduce yourself and talk.
Yeah. Yeah, so my name is James Ramsey. I've been a partner with I've been with the firm for about 134, no, about it's what it feels like sometimes, about 11 years now. But actually I started off as a temp at a city in the Coachella Valley and worked my way up to accounting manager. So this is kind of an old hat that I've been wearing for the past 17, 18 years, doing county manager, finance director work. So I'm really excited to work with the district and go from here. So.
Al? Any words of wisdom?
Well, I mean, you know, I'd say the same thing if James wasn't sitting next to me. He's
Okay, James, just,
He's great to work with, highly knowledgeable. And in all honesty, because I've been more or less retired for about 10 years, I've been doing taxes, but that's been the focus of my continuing professional education. So I haven't stayed up on the GASBs and whatnot, and, you know, someone like James who is, so in some respects, he's gonna be able to, you know, give even more service than I could. In terms of the accounting aspect of it, you know, I think we're both, you know, certainly qualified as far as that goes, but, yeah, I'm highly impressed, and I think you'd be well served with that, James.
And in addition to that, the finance committee also had this proposal kind of discussed before, and Kirk, I don't know if you want to add anything else that.
Yeah, I think that we looked at it in some detail with who the people were that proposed the last time, and there wasn't a huge cost differential between the first two. And so it made a fair amount of sense, and we've actually been considering
eBay as the auditing firm instead. The scope of work has changed since that time, and so the pricing has changed. It looks like the hourly charges are reasonable and, we can expect. So we felt that it was worthwhile to proceed as the staff had proposed.
Very good. Okay, anything else?
Just a quick question, only to satisfy my curiosity, and because of the pain that we went through historically. Can you talk a little bit about what the certified fraud examiner certificate entails?
It really.
And what it does with the
Okay, not that.
I mean, it came clear for me.
It's a credential that I had to study for, and there's an examination, and then I take annual CPE, the continuing professional education. I have to do, mostly, most of my engagements, for the CFE, I actually farm out to a separate team. I typically only do about 3 or 4 engagements a year related to that CFE designation. We do have, I earned that one about 4 or 5 years ago, and since then I've merged in with Bailey for my previous firm. And they have a much more robust certified fraud team, like fraud examination team, that we can bring in if ever the need arises. But it definitely gives me a different lens to look at stuff.
Yeah.
Through. So
Couldn't think it.
yeah.
So just in terms of the fiscal impact, it said that we had appropriated 60,000, and it's gonna be a little bit more, so I just wanna understand where the other budget dollars are coming from.
So the 60,000 was based primarily on the Siobhan and Associates previous proposal. And when that was scoped, they didn't fully understand, I think, the full scope of services. We obviously didn't have a proposal for the coming year at that point. And I think if we had had someone truly engaged at that time, they would have, had a similar scope to this. So, what we did, we looked at how much time Al has been spending. And the last 6 months, he's billed about $50,000. So expand that to a year, about $100,000. Al is a temporary employee, certainly is at a different rate than a full consulting firm with a suite of folks. And so when you actually look at that through that lens, it's really quite comparable to what it's actually taken us to get those services. So I think, if we'd gone a different path, we'd still be spending about the same amount of money. So.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure, since we had 60 and it's gonna be more, I'm not questioning that the work has to be done, or I just want to make sure when we're moving budget items.
Yeah, we'll look at it at mid-year and adjust the budget so that it reflects what the cost is. Now that we know what the cost is going to be.
Okay.
I think previously it was in 2 different pots that were not necessarily the same thing.
Yeah.
Some was for Al and some was for Siobhan.
Yeah, and if you recall, originally when Siobhan was hired, Al was going to be phased out by October 2022. And step back, but we're very glad he was able to help us through that. So,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't think I mentioned, but I should add that I've really enjoyed working with James over the last month or so as we've been. He's helped me out with quite a few questions, so it's been great.
Okay, any more comments?
Make a motion to approve resolution 2023-23.
Second.
All right. We have a motion from Vice President Zuka.
Yeah.
And a second by Director Wheeler for resolution 2023-24.
So, Vice President Zuka?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then Director Wheeler,
Yes.
and then Director Jordan,
Yes.
and President Vella.
Yes,
And Director Schmidt is absent. So the motion passes.
all right. Very good. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you.
Welcome.
Good work.
Yeah,
Thank
welcome
you.
aboard, James.
Okay. We can move on to item 8C. Just to consider resolution 23-24, authorizing the interim general manager to enter into professional services agreement with DJ Brown to serve as district auditor.
So I'm gonna take this one,
Okay.
we're tag teaming.
All right,
And so, you know, of course, the board recalls that we just completed the audit. We had the presentation by our previous auditor, James Mardo's office in March, I believe. And at the time, we mentioned that they'd been the auditor for 10 years, so we felt it was time, you know, appropriate time to look for a different auditor. So as soon as that was completed, we went out right away and solicited proposals from different auditing firms. And we received 4. And of the 4, you know, we felt that there was really not a lot of difference between the audit firms and what they were going to do for us. We had chats with Al because he'd done this before, and he couldn't see really anything different. The only thing that stuck out different to us is that CJ Brown, the company that we're recommending the board, you know, allow us to enter a contract with, is they are the least expensive. And then the other thing that they did too is they're actually working with a couple of neighbors of ours. They're working as the auditor for the Westboro Water District in South San Francisco, and we're very close with those folks there. And also with the Coastside County Water District in Half Moon Bay, and again, we're close with the general manager and their staff over there. And they just had nothing but good things to say about the audit work that CJ Brown has done for them. So we met with the finance committee with the board president and board member Wheeler a few weeks ago, just to let them know that's what we found, and that we were going to be recommending CJ Brown to the board here, and just ask for their concurrence, and they concurred. So that's kind of where we're at. The fiscal impact for their services of $23,000, almost $24,000 is a little bit below what we budgeted. We budgeted $30,000 for the audit for this coming fiscal year for last year's audit. So it's well below that. And then you can see that the contract that's proposed is for them to do the audit for the next 3 years. And if we like them, you know, then we have an option to allow them to do 2 more years audits. And you can see the last 2 years audits is about another $1,500 more than the previous 3 years. So with that, I'll end my discussion on this and see if the board members have any questions.
again, this item was brought to the finance committee. And so we had some lengthy conversations on that as well. So we think we concur with what Renee just said. But any questions that or comments that one have on this, please?
I have a couple.
Please, go ahead.
The first is on the resolution. At the bottom, I think we're missing a 2. Provide audit services for fiscal year 2025, 26, and 2026, 27.
Yes,
And then I don't know if it's necessary or not, but in the agreement that we have with them, which is on page 81, when it talks about key personnel, that during the term of the agreement that, I don't know if they're supposed to name somebody.
yes, they are. Yeah. So once the board approves that we go forward, then we'll be in contact with CJ Brown and find out who our point of contact is going to be and fill out the contract.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome.
Very good. Yeah, good question. Good.
More of a comment than a question. When we're doing professional services, then I look at 3 years and they're somehow gonna hold their price fixed for 3 years. I question whether or not they understand the concept of inflation. And if I go back to A and they're providing financial services, I get worried. I'm just kidding. But it doesn't make any sense to me. And I didn't see in the contract that they can increase their rates or anything like that unless I missed it.
Well, it's interesting, if you look at the last page, it actually shows the cost for the other firm too, and so one firm held it steady all 5 years. And the other 2.
I mean, I'm okay with it. I just am pointing out that that's
Just
kind of
loaded out, they
ridiculous.
just loaded the first year.
That's it. We're either overpaying in year 1.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, that's pretty much what they do is
They say,
they're accounting
where we're
for
going to be, and we'll
inflation.
start from there.
They expect to make more
I
money the
mean,
first
I
year.
know
and
it's not
less
real, so the
less.
question is what's, you know,
Yeah.
that's.
That's what I'd always heard, that the auditors are typically in the first couple of years, they would charge a little bit more as they got used to their client. And in the last couple of years, they'd be more efficient. They could charge you
Yeah.
less. I think the last couple of years, our contract with MARTA, they charge us the same number, same figure.
Even though they're more efficient, getting it done faster. So this is all, it's basically a lump sum, it's, anything else.
Yeah.
That was it.
All right, good observations. Good observations. Okay. Anything else on the board? Hearing none. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2023-24 for P.J. Brown as our auditors?
I'll second.
Very good. So we have a motion by Dr. Jordan and a second by Vice President Zuka. For resolution 2023-24, right?
Yes, so Director Jordan,
Yes.
Vice President Zuka.
Yes.
Director Wheeler
Yes,
and President Bella.
Yes.
And note that the Director Schmidt is absent tonight.
Very good. Okay. Well, now we have the CPA and the auditor in place. Cool. Next item, consider approval of the two-year strategic plan 2023-24, including director's assignment. This is Kat.
Yeah, so there is a little typo on the agenda I noticed, so we're not doing the strategic plan, but
Yeah, I saw. Was you gonna go, oh, wait,
it's really hammering it home. So this should look pretty familiar to you since we've had a couple of special meetings already.
Yeah.
The last revisions were pretty minor. So certainly could go over it more if you wanted to, but also.
Yeah, we did go through this already. We also had a special meeting to discuss this. We changed it once. We changed it twice. These strikes are out.
And it's
So
evolved to this.
This is the final version of it, so. We all went through it, so it looks the same as some minor changes since we saw it last time. All right. Good question on this. On the director's assignment. Since we are fresh from the 2x2 meeting with city council.
Yes.
So that. Is gonna be an ad hoc committee, or shall we make it as a standing committee? Because remember, we asked for a commitment for it to be an annual meeting. At least,
Can I just say, you don't really want it to be a Brown Act committee, do you?
no,
So if you keep it an ad hoc, and then every year you take a fresh look, okay, here's what we did this year. And now, this coming year, it'll continue to be an ad hoc, but it's for a limited duration. And the subject matter might change depending on what you want to work on that year. And that'll keep it as an advisory committee and not subject to the Brown Act.
good point. Yeah, so in order for us to meet our end of the bargain, so to speak, we can still leave it as an ad hoc, knowing that at least once a year, we will be meeting with the council. And if there's other meetings that are needed, we could. And we just leave it as an ad hoc.
Correct.
Okay.
and the presumption would be that we may change the membership each time and the schedule each time. So the ad hoc gives you the flexibility or the president at the time,
Correct.
an opportunity to appoint people.
That's how Belmont set it up. They're today. Ad hoc.
I'm not sure, because don't they
They're
have,
just like, they just
It
have a list of
wasn't
IDR.
advertised. If you didn't have an agenda,
Yeah,
There was no agenda.
if it was a standing committee, you would have, they would have had the Brown Act in it.
no, but I don't know for sure.
I think it's always been, even when I was on the school board, we didn't have, it wasn't a Brown Act meeting, and when I was on council, it wasn't.
But if they're going to have, every year they're gonna have the vice mayor and a council member.
I think they just
It's
have
always the
two.
vice mayor.
No, I think it's just two people on the council, it doesn't have to be.
Okay,
anybody in
all
particular.
right. I thought
They
the
just-
vice
it's a
mayor
list
was
of, like,
kind of
their-
designated as part of the vice mayor's role.
I think it's just intergovernmental assignments and in December, they draw sticks. Who gets to do what
Gets to
every
what.
year? Yeah.
And the short one comes to us.
As, yeah, as long as they do have it, you know, ad hoc or whatever, the purpose is still going to be the same. All right, cool. So we'll leave it as that, you know, just a little bit more flexibility. But I do, what I was getting at is that just because I didn't want it to kind of, I wanted the commitment to be from both sides, all because we talked about it and I specifically asked for that commitment that every year, you know, preferably in July, we do meet, no matter what.
Yeah, Vice Mayor Hurd, I recall, she committed to
Yes,
meeting.
yeah,
Yes.
okay. All right, cool. So.
This is no resolution, but
This is
just
just,
a approval, a voice vote of the board.
Okay,
Can I just make one comment really quick?
Yeah.
I just wanted to, I mean, I know we had several meetings on this, but I know staff put in an extraordinarily amount of work to put this together, and yeah, I think the final document is fantastic. I really appreciate that you involved everyone in the district it helps everyone also buy in, so you know, the word cloud where people got to give their opinion and what the vision looks like. So I know we might not spend a ton of time on this tonight, but thank you so much for all the work that you put in. I know it was a lot of effort, and it just doesn't go unnoticed, so thank you.
Thank you. It was actually a lot of fun to put together, so.
Thanks.
this mumbo jumbo is proof. A lot of words into each other right there. But, yeah, good comment, good point, and, I think we all echo the same sentiment, so.
Although I do want to know what we had to do with ham.
That,
On the front, right, it's small world, HAM. Who used ham in a sentence with water?
How more is it?
Oh, I think it's home that you got cut
I think
off.
it's home and it's cut off.
But I'm going with ham.
Yeah, like there were some funny ones in there of recommendations. There was, what's the Arby's logo? We have the meats, so someone recommended, we have the water.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
there you
There was
go.
some, there was some.
All right.
I'm thinking
People got
someone
creative.
really got
Yeah,
creative
but-
using ham in a sentence, but whatever.
That was cool. So, you don't need an emotion for this, it's what, it's just an approval?
Yeah.
What kind of approval do you need?
Just a
Like
voice vote.
Just a voice vote,
Voice vote?
voice vote.
So we'll have to vote.
All
Okay,
in
All in
favor.
all in favor, yeah.
Bye.
We all see it, so opposed, okay, good,
Nice work.
congratulations,
Yeah,
good
it does
job,
look very good.
good job. I like it.
The city council actually requested, or the vice mayor requested, we send it to her once it was approved, so we'll get it to her.
Okay. Right. Item AE, directions regarding the Aqua elections for president, vice president, and region 5 reps. So.
That's going to be me, yeah, I get to do this one. So if you board recalls a few months ago, I brought to you a request that was coming from Aqua, because they're gonna be voting this time for president, vice president, actually even the region 5 and board of directors. I guess typically in the past, they've done this at the fall conference where they just have a big, audience out there and they start voting. They're not doing that anymore. They're actually sending out ballots to all the different agencies that participate, and they are asking, us, who is going to represent and who's going to vote on behalf of the district. If you call, he said, well, we'll let you do it, the interim general manager. I said, okay, I'll do it, but before, I submit the vote on behalf of the district, I'll bring to you the list of candidates. So that's what this is. This is the list of candidates for the people who are vying for the Aqua 2024-25 president and vice president, and then the candidates for the Region 5 Board of Directors. What's interesting is you see in the staff report that there's only one person who's vying for the Aqua president. It's Kathy Green. Her bio or her biography is in here. And then for the vice president, there are two people. There is an Ernesto or Ernie Avila, and then a Michael Saunders, who are vying for that. So what I'm hoping to get from the board is your choice. You know, maybe everybody's got a different choice. That's fine. And I guess you guys can decide if it's going to be the simple majority of whoever you folks decide, and that'll be the direction that I take and submit the vote. The voting is taking place now, and we have until September 15th with which to submit our vote in the district if we're going to vote. And now's the opportune time to discuss this because we don't meet in August, and then the next time we meet in September, it'll be after the end of the voting process. Okay. So you heard me kind of describe the three people that are vying for the president and the vice president seat, and then the Aqua Region 5 candidates. There are 7 people there, and there are 7 positions. So there is a nominating committee, and they presented a slate. And if you look at the last page, that's part of this. What page is that? I'll go to it. Page 138. Yeah. If you go to page 138, you'll see who the Region 5 committee, nominating committee is recommending. And so that's an option for you folks, or, you know, you can recommend a different slate of candidates. And so what's interesting is they've got, you know, candidates for the chair and for the vice chair, and then for the board members. They're just all the same people. They just kind of changed them around. So, you know, it's a choice we have to make. And I'm just looking for some direction from the board on how you want me to submit the vote on behalf of the district.
Yeah, and I don't know how many of the people we all know. I know a few of them.
Yeah, the one that I've heard it for a long time is Mr. Weed from Alameda County. He's been a part of the aquifer. Yeah.
And Mueller has been there
And
for a
Mueller,
while.
yeah, it sounds like he's been there for a long time. Yeah.
So I have a question though. Here you have the nominating committee, the recommended slate of candidates.
Yeah.
And then you have the individual. So when a nominating committee recommends, they also recommend the chair and the vice chair.
Yeah.
I never heard of that. You know, usually you recommend the members and then they vote between them who's gonna be the chair. But
If you go to the aqua side, I mean, you can go in there and take a look and see how they put all this together. They describe it. I just didn't get into all that. I said, you know, I'll just try and keep it simple for the board. I said, look, here's a nominating committee's recommendation. And then, you know, here's how or the people who are vying for the different chair or vice chair in Region 5 that the board could choose from, and is again, just provide direction on how you would like to see the vote from the district go
Yeah.
to Aqua.
so, but all the candidates will eventually end up serving.
On Region 5, all of them are going to serve
All of them.
one seat or another. One of them's gonna be the chair,
Yeah,
the
so
other
the
the vice
difference
chair.
is going to be whether we want, you know, Palmer, Varela, or Reed as the chair.
Yeah. And then what's interesting in the Board of Candidates for Region 5, that Mr. Avila, Ernesto Avila, he's also the one that's vying for the vice president seat at Aqua.
Or Aqua.
Yeah.
And he's got the election board recommendation. He's part of their
Yeah.
slate.
Yeah. So Kirk, sounds like you took a look at the Aqua.
Well, I also tuned into their little forum where they had the 3 aqua position people talk. And basically they all said almost the same things in terms of what they want for aqua and what's important for aqua, and supporting the committees and having influence in the state type of thing. You know, they do have 2 people who are up for the vice presidency, and Ernie Avalo's from Contra Costa is a consultant background who got elected to the water board, whereas the other guy is more of a public official, and he represents a very small water district around Tahoe, with some sort of specialized issues type of thing, rather than the mainstream aqua policy
Correct.
type of thing, which may be why the nominating committee went the way they
Recommended
did.
for Avila.
Right.
So, with that, so we obviously, we have the vote for Kathy Green.
Right, the president's, it's just only.
Vice president will be Avila.
Yeah, I guess my question would be,
He's
is
got
that
the cost.
he's going to end up on Region 5 Board 2 type of things,
But he's Contra Costa, so he's
right?
closer to it. You know, you probably understand. You know, the Bay Area Water Agency.
If you take a look at his bio, he talks a little bit about the Los Vaqueros project, which is, you know, a long-range project with the SP regional water system, trying to get some more water reliability here, yeah.
Yeah. So, I vote for him.
Yeah.
Parabola, okay.
Or Avila. Okay, good.
And then the Region 5 folks.
I think, he would love to be chair of Region 5. He's been involved with it for so many years.
Hadn't done it before.
That's just-
I was trying to remember.
John Lee? Yeah,
I just don't have enough information to not vote the slate recommended.
oh,
I mean, you know, I don't wanna get into, Weed versus
Yeah.
Varela versus Palmer. When the chair, I don't know John well enough to recommend him over Varela. I've met the guy 3 times, 4 times.
oh,
So,
well, we can tell him he does, so.
yeah, but I mean,
But
he's not,
he's on the Bosca.
I understand, but he's like, the nominating committee's not putting him in his chair.
No,
No, they're giving us a selection.
Well, we have a choice. We can pick what they pick, or we get to
we
pick
can, we
individual.
can,
Well, for Region 5, we get to pick from those.
for
three.
chair,
They didn't
for chair,
nominate
vice chair.
for vice chair.
No, they did.
chair.
Yeah,
They did.
They did the top.
The top, they have a
Oh.
slate, we can vote their slate, or we can choose our own.
So the question would be whether we go with that slate exactly, or the chair and the vice chair would pick ourselves.
I had some concern about the realm. Just in terms of his background before he got on the Valley Water Board.
Hmm,
In terms of he doesn't have a background in water and he doesn't have a background in public service. In the same way that most of the other people do. And he has a background in, I think it was, I don't remember, it was TV production or something like that.
That's not toys in his biography. He worked out like for
Yeah.
Mattel or something like that.
When they began dating.
That's what he says.
Yeah.
So it was like some of the stuff that he's been pushing in the background on the water board has been more off base from some of the policies that are traditional for board members. Let's put it that way.
well, John Reed, on the other hand, he eats, drinks, dreams water. He is water all the way. He's water engineering, water, I mean, that's all he talks about. And he's been on, the Alameda board forever. Personally, I like John for chair, but that's a personal opinion.
I met him, he's
John Reed, yeah.
yeah, he's definitely,
And he even at Bosca, he's very. He's a. You know, he brings up very good arguments, you know, we don't always. I didn't always agree with him, you know, but I respect him for the way he defends his argument. He's good at water. At water engineering, you know, water distribution, water availability. Water reserve, very good at it. And Varela, I don't know the guy, so I'm basically voting for the person that I know, myself. As chair. And then Varela is not on the vice chair list here. So
true.
then we go with Palmer as vice chair. And the rest will fall in place.
Well, then on the bottom, it says candidates for board members as a choose a maximum of 5 people, and there are 6 people there. So if John Weed were the choice for the board, for the chair,
Chair.
he would be out right down below, wouldn't he? For the board members?
Yeah,
Well, we
that,
still
that,
get
then you
to vote
remove
for
it.
who we want,
Yeah.
whether we have them in 2 spots or not, I guess is.
Okay, that's true.
Because
This is just one vote of however many, agencies are gonna be voting. Yeah,
Of course,
yeah, yeah,
Our vote may not mean much, but
right,
still.
You have to eliminate somebody from that bottom
Yeah,
6.
right.
So if we put Reed as the chair. Oh, that's right, you're right, he still has to be voted in,
Mhm.
Right.
okay.
Well, if we're voting for Avila for vice president, I don't know, does
No,
he serve both?
no, vice president will be Palmer.
No, I'm talking
No.
about,
Oh,
if
Right,
it's Aqua
yeah.
Vice President, do we want to be just a board member and?
yeah,
Region 5.
Could you be broke?
yeah, I don't.
Well, he may not win the Aqua Vice President, right? Same thing with Weed.
well, that's his boss, I mean, we
Right,
gave
right.
him the vice presidency, come on. We can't elect him on both sides.
Well, you could because you don't know if he's going to win.
We by ourselves,
Well, we're
That's
gonna
what we're
vote
being asked to do.
for Region Palmer.
We have to vote for Region 5 and for Aqua now.
correct.
Yeah, right.
So we already voted for the guy for
Right.
vice president, so we gave him the higher.
But he may not win that seat, even though
Yeah.
we voted for him. He may not win it. So I mean, you could vote for him also in Region 5. Just the same thing like with voting
Because
for
we don't want
Weed.
to lose him, right? That's what we're saying, okay.
That's,
I mean, I don't know why
It's
we would vote
confusing.
for someone to be Aqua Vice President and not vote for them to be on Region 5. Like,
Yeah.
at that point, what,
So then, and we'll be out.
so is it John Weed that you're saying that we want to vote for the
That's
chair?
me.
That's you,
me.
okay.
I think Kathy.
I-
okay with
I don't have any
that knowledge of
really information on any of these people, so I will defer to you guys.
just what we saw on the bio.
Yes, exactly.
Um.
Does anybody object with
Kurt,
John
what do you
Weed?
think?
I'm happy with John for the chair
Okay.
and Sarah for the vice chair.
Okay,
I'm trying to remember whether I ever met her or not at one of the Aqua conferences.
well, what do you think? You
I'm
good?
fine. I mean, like I said, I've met John at Aqua conferences. I don't know him. I've met, both John, Mueller and Weed,
Mhm.
but I don't have a strong opinion, so that's fine.
All right. So we'll go with Reed, the chair,
Hmm,
Palmer, vice chair,
okay,
so.
and you select 5 of the 6 people below.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we need to drop
Drop one out.
1, okay, I'll leave it up to you guys.
I-
I mean, I said my piece on that, so.
I guess.
No, you get to pick the hard one. You advocated your candidate. Now you get to pick one that we don't.
Oh, you know how easy I could do that? I have no idea. So Palmer, we won, John Mueller, we won. Let's see,
I think it's between Mary Bannister and
Bannister,
Floyd Wicks.
Wicks. In Bannister and Wicks. Okay, Barrow Valley.
May I ask a clarifying question? Because I'm looking at the nominating committee's recommended slate, and they have 7 people. They just have a different chair than we're choosing and we're both choosing the vice chair.
Mhm.
But the 5 board members are completely separate people, there's 7 total. So I'm looking at when we're making the max of 5 choices, if we've already chosen Weed and Palmer, then I don't think we're supposed to choose them at the below, the way I look at this, unless I'm incorrect.
Well, again, you have to take a look at it that we're one vote, right? So no matter how you vote for these people, even if you vote for Sarah Palmer again down below as a board of director, she may or may not win that board of director seat, or she may or may not win that vice chair seat. It's just one vote. We're just one vote. This is how you want to see it go. I mean, with your vote, you may end up putting her in one of those seats.
I think you can choose 5 in that lower category. I think the nominating committee, maybe they didn't want to leave anyone out, so they just kind of spread it around.
Yeah.
But
They
I
have 7 people.
I think you
Yeah.
can choose 5.
And I would think it would say, choose a
Choose
person only
five,
once.
but yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
They just intended for you to do that.
But like the way it's listed is weird.
Yeah,
because,
yeah,
you know,
it
like,
is. It's weird.
Like Varela is only listed as.
As the chair.
As an option as the chair.
Yeah.
If we wanted him to be on the board,
Yeah,
we can.
You're out of luck.
Right.
Maybe he
And
said.
I don't know
I
why
think that might be bad strategy on Berella's part.
Yeah.
He might have said, I'm throwing my hat in the ring for that, and now,
Either that or nothing, yeah.
yeah,
So,
sounds like,
it may get nothing. You never know.
that's a,
Okay, so we're going to leave, oh,
We're.
Wicks out,
we need to leave one out.
Wicks out so that we can have a, the five on top.
And Wicks looks pretty impressive, to be honest. I mean, he comes from private water, not public water, but he's got a lot of experience in water.
Okay, the Bannister. Be out. This one, this.
Yeah.
Okay, the Wicks or Bannister? No.
Who's got a coin?
I was just looking at experience, I would go with, Wicks.
Wicks,
Yeah. Bannister's on Paro, but the professional background is the same.
She was general manager of, before she got elected to the board,
Oh, was she really? I missed
Yeah,
that.
yeah, she was general manager.
Oh, okay.
2 years after.
I saw the
retirement.
board and then,
Yeah,
Jones.
Yeah.
All right, on once,
missed that, I was skimming.
yeah, I mean, we are not decided,
Yeah.
okay, so.
Yeah, but we're gonna-
Something hard. So to me, I was looking at it, I said, okay, there's 5 people, there's 6 people here, 4 men, 2 women, I'll keep the 2 women in and 3 guys, so that's it.
I guess I would drop Wicks, yeah.
With
So that nobody, everybody's kind of leaning towards Wicks.
the thing dropped out.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, that's fine.
all right.
Done.
So I've got my direction, yeah, so Kathy Green, Ernesto Avila for vice president, and then the slate that we got here is Weed for chair, Palmer for vice chair, and then remove Floyd Wicks, that's how I'll vote. All right, thank you.
Cool, thank you all, thank you, good discussion,
So.
all right.
39.
So this, the way, update on the modified safety and wellness incentive program, this will be capped.
Yes.
All right.
All right, so we have these 2 programs, and so they're incentive programs and they run through the fiscal year. So now that we're starting the fiscal year, we thought we'd take a fresh look, and adapt and change them, to kind of really fit the district, as it's, things have changed over time. You'll notice there's no fiscal impact. We're not changing the amounts, overall, but making some tweaks internally. The wellness incentive program, it's a relatively minor tweak. We're just taking, the participation all-in bonus. If you meet all of the elements of the program, you get an extra $250. We're just taking that $250 and we're applying it so that if you get, a non-COVID vaccine that's recommended by the CDC, like flu or boost, or single,
Shingles,
that you get credit for that. And so the safety and loss prevention program is a much more involved program. It's one that we, employees are constantly engaged and we have, bi-weekly meetings, except for like today when there was a big main break right in the afternoon, right before the meeting. So, and so that one, we, a couple weeks ago, we had a meeting with one of the safety meetings and we gave, went over a recap of like, okay, who participated at what incentives did they get? And then we also took that as an opportunity to talk to the employees about, what do they like about the program? What's really working? What, suggestions do they have to keep that safety awareness and engagement, loss prevention engagement up, even more asked, you have any friends and family who have safety programs, you want to, bring those suggestions to us. And then we also looked at like how people actually participated. So there are, more changes, but they were, just basically to really refine, to get rid of some of the elements that just aren't used and aren't really motivating. And updates. And a lot of these changes, came from suggestions. Like, for example, we explicitly did not prorate for new employees. So you had to attend 80 or 90% of all safety meetings, including the ones before you were employed. We made that change. And we also included actually, and the idea also came from a comment Matt made, a raffle program. So every quarter we'll have a raffle for a $250 gift card. And over the course of the quarter, you can give your peers kudos for something you see that's a good safety action or loss
Practice or
prevention.
behavior.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be like the most significant thing, like you save the, district $20,000. It could be, hey, I was going up on a ladder and, Rena pointed out my shoes were untied. Those kinds of things. So, and it's good because it's peer reporting. And there's little oversight, so you can't say good job washing your hands after the bathroom, like every single day and get a million entries.
Just wash your hand, please.
But, so, I think the employees are gonna be really excited, about this, and, I'm excited to kind of have it be a little bit more refined, also be a little bit easier to track and track stuff.
Good. And how, what the reaction from the troops and all that?
So we haven't presented it to the employees and totally yet. We wanted to run it by you guys first. I did, send it to Jonathan Anderson, who administers our safety program. And he was thrilled with the edits and changes, so. But like I said, a lot of these recommendations came from the employees
From them,
themselves, so.
okay. That's always good. Good. Matt, anything?
No.
Good.
Looks good to me.
Okay.
The fiscal impact, it doesn't sound like it's a whole lot more expensive.
It is actually,
Expanding things, it's more redistributing the money a little bit.
yeah, exactly. The 4 gift cards totaling 1,000 over the course of the year weren't in there, but you'll never have full participation by everyone, no matter what. So it's all within the existing program budget.
Mhm.
But still, the employees obviously have a big hand over this and sometimes it's very beneficial to kind of change things a little bit, from the way they've always done them. And you inject a new interest.
Right, it needs to evolve, otherwise, it gets stale, and then if people just don't pay attention, because like you said.
We started this raffle thing, and then what we did with it is, it's up in Palo Alto, then we have electric and now over the water, gas, wastewater. But so then at the end of the year, all the raffle tickets get counted up for WGW and for electric. And that counts as a throw and cornhole, each raffle ticket.
You
then
guys have a
right-
cornhole?
Well, we'll make one if we have to. And then whoever wins the whole cornhole game gets bragging rights for the year. So trying to make it fun as well.
Yeah.
If you want to borrow, I have.
I might have to borrow, but yeah, no, I think we've
A
got it.
template,
We got it covered.
got a template.
Yeah, we got it covered.
No, I was gonna loan it to you and then you can keep it.
Yeah, I know,
It's in the way.
I have a large corporation here I just ordered.
I've heard people are saying cornhole less, and then now they're calling it bago.
Bago?
For whatever,
No.
I was like, what's that? What is bago?
I don't even know what that is.
And I had to look it
It
up.
used to be beanbag toss.
Yeah. Bag toss.
Yeah.
We call it bags
Oh.
in Minnesota.
Bags.
That's
Bags.
my brother from Wisconsin. We were playing it out back and called it corn. What is that called? And, I was
Yeah.
flipping through the, ESPN has cornhole championship.
Exactly, yeah.
You know,
yeah,
on
yeah.
the
Watch-
national
watch it on
TV.
TV.
it's-
That sounds fun, doesn't it?
That's boring, but those people are really good.
Yeah, I know they are.
I guess bags or
There you go,
bago or
bago.
In
something.
Minnesota, isn't it bags?
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. Yes.
With the accent.
Yeah.
Good accent, Kathy.
I have a daughter who lives there. We're always like
Yeah, no.
talking to the people about, what did you just say? Today?
And
I have an associate that lives in Minnesota, and in the winter, they don't call it Minnesota, they call it Minnesota. Minnesota. All right, cool. So this is info, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, Bosca. We had the Bosca meeting last Thursday. And it was a relatively short meeting compared to previous ones. And Nicole happened to be sick, so she didn't show up. And so it's not because of that the meeting was short. But we had a short agenda, and for some reason, there was something that had to happen at the Burlingame Park and Recreation Library where we meet,
Oh,
and that we needed to leave the room before 9 o'clock so that they would give us 15 minutes to readjust the room for the next day or something like that, you know, so anyway. But the majority of the meeting was by far a very lengthy conversation from this one topic alone. Was of the alternative water supply.
Yeah.
A lot of questions from that. Big presentation by SFPUC, and the majority of it was why not consider seriously and put it into the next the desal idea and SFPUC. The desal is kind of a small portion of this whole discussion, and there were a lot of people asking why not make it as a bigger part of the discussion.
making desal a bigger part of the discussion.
Correct, yes. So, we talked a little bit about the resolution about the deposit on the bank accounts, because as I mentioned earlier, the accounts were in the Silicon Valley Trust, and we all know the story of that. And all the money has been, none was lost, and all the money has been placed into other banks, so we had a discussion on that. And there was a discussion, I believe this there was a discussion on the director's compensation, because as you know, the directors like us, you know, they get $100 stipend for each meeting. And it's been like that for, I don't know, 20 years, I think. And there were some directors who were looking at other districts and other agencies who have like 200, 250. And there was a lot of discussion on that, you know, but the conclusion was that we don't want to touch it, so nobody wanted to get into the political arena with increasing, because it's not increasing to $200, which is still nothing. You can't even go have dinner these days with $100, but it's gonna be increased 100%. So that's a lot of money. 100% of what though? Oh, it's 100%. But anyway, so 100% of a little is still a little, still. But it was decided just to leave it alone.
But it's also $100 times 26.
Yeah. But you're not gonna get 26 from that either.
Yeah.
So anyway, but the long and short of it is that they didn't want to touch it. They thought it was a little bit too hard, so they left it alone. And then some discussion in tier 2, but I'm gonna leave that to you, so go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, so, as you know, we've been going through this tier 2 negotiation process. And something happened over the last month or so that's probably going to result in that process taking longer. But I do think it's a really good thing. So there is this concept in the water supply agreement with SF called the minimum purchase requirement. It doesn't apply to us, it applies to Alameda County, Sunnyvale, Mountain View, and Milpitas, those 4 agencies. And it is written in there because these other agencies have another supply, you know, Valley Water and Alameda has some others. And the goal is to, you know, incentivize those agencies to purchase enough SFPC water so the SFPC rates can stay stable. That was the original intent. Over time with conservation, it has become, you know, a negative or a disincentive for these agencies to invest and develop alternative supplies like recycled water. And especially with the drought and conservation, these agencies do face a certain challenge because during a drought, they're asked to cut back, their purchases fall below their minimum purchase agreement because there's a declared drought, their minimum purchase fees, costs that they would pay are waived. But then like now that drought ends and their water use like ours is still depressed, but immediately that, you know, penalty is reinstated. And so they're looking at, you know, millions of dollars, depending on the agency and the amount, for potentially years because it takes a while for that use to rebound. And so this has been brought to SFPU's attention, particularly by these agencies over the years. And finally, recently SFPUC has put forth a proposal to do an amendment related to that. Bosco is still in the process of analyzing it. Of course, it's, you know, all going to be negotiation. But what it means to us is, you know, Bosco's, you know, staff time and everything is limited. And there is, you know, an interrelationship with the tier 2 because it really affects drought conditions. That's when they see the most impact with the minimum purchase. So what it means, we made a lot of progress on tier 2. I think we were getting much closer to having something we could really bring forward, but I think it's been still a process up. So
Weren't they talking about selling those minimum purchase allocations to
There has been
agencies that are up against their contract maximums?
there has been, there's, I think some have interest, some have reluctance. It's, if it was that easy, I think the agencies would have happily done it.
There has been one. There was the water.
East Palo Alto.
East Palo Alto took some, bought some from Mountain
From
View.
Mountain View.
Yeah, that's the only one that we know of, right?
I think they both are IHG and minimum purchase, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think we have to be really careful on this. This benefits us in 0 ways.
Right.
This is only down to us. It's all finance. I get the drought and all this kind of stuff. This is agencies that are trying to figure out a way to benefit them. The money to us, it's gonna impact us financially. There's no way it doesn't. So we gotta be careful with this one.
And the stage right now is Bosco is doing the financial analysis.
Yeah, but Bosco, as you know, represents the average. They don't represent us, you know, and then Bosco looks at this as a good thing for the region. They're gonna go advocate on behalf of that. They're not gonna advocate on behalf, you know, and it's the big players. It's the ACWDs of the world that are sitting there advocating this thing, that are dealing with it, that are talking all these millions of dollars. So, you know, again, San Francisco is probably finally caving. There are ways, I just think we have to be very careful on this whole thing, that we're advocating for our interests and our ratepayers and our money, and not on, oh yeah, we'll do it, this sounds good, good idea, all these good reasons, which are all the reasons you cited are good. None of them affect us. None of them benefit us, none of them affect us. You know, it's the same song and dance that these agencies have had for the last 20 years, when they realized it was starting to not be a good thing, that they didn't want to buy it. Well, there are solutions that don't affect us, but I think that we ought to be, you know, making sure we advocate for.
And that's the same for all small agencies or all small districts?
I mean, what's happening is that they don't want to spend the money on Hetchy water if they don't have to. but they have to. So some of these agencies have multiple water supplies and they prefer to take cheaper water. What happens is if they take less hetchy water, that's gonna affect our rates.
Yeah.
And it's gonna affect that's gonna cost money on our side. So, you know, to provide them flexibility, it has to cost us. So I think we ought to be looking for solutions to this, and I don't have a problem trying to solve the problem, but not at our expense.
Not our expense, yeah. I mean, there was a similar issue a couple of years ago where, and I think it had to do with this transfer of water. So like what East Alto did and all the other agencies, look, if that's gonna happen, that's fine, but it can't affect our cost, you know, whether you're a large agency or small agency, it's not. And all the agencies stuck together on that. So I mean, this will be something that, you know, we will have to, as a group, say, hey, look, yeah, we're not gonna let that happen to us.
Be very careful about the lens and the regional benefits, all good, and route and the incentives and all of that. It's gonna affect our rates, you know, and then I think we have to hold firm on this can't affect our rates.
Yeah,
The one thing that's changed more so is all the work that's gone into the alternative water supply and looking at the forecast of the expenditures to actually make those projects happen. That's starting to change. And I don't know to what degree and to what degree it affects us, right? But that's starting to change
Yeah,
the math. on
I
it.
mean, that's planning, that's not infrastructure in place pumping water, right, kind of thing too. So it just, again, the lens I'm gonna take on this one, if it comes back to the board, is what's the monetary effect to us, right? Are we benefiting ATWD and the people that have the minimum purchase at our risk, at our increased risk or at our increased cost? If we're taking on more risk or we're taking on more cost, there's gotta be some quid pro quo in that. I mean, there's gotta be there has to be a benefit to us. Otherwise, you know, 5 agencies are benefiting and the rest of us are taking additional, taking a hit for it.
hit for it, yeah.
So,
So, Brenna and Kat, what are the discussions at the water managers, meetings? I mean, I'm sure that there has to be other managers who are just as concerned,
Around the minimum purchase.
correct?
So far, that discussion's only happened, at the tier 2 meeting. And it was very closely tied to tier 2 itself, because there were some suggestions and proposals to actually solve the problem within tier 2 itself, which I'll happily go into the details, but I don't think this is the right forum, so anyone wants to more, but, it didn't, to me, feel like at all the right way to solve the problem. Tier 2 is not the problem with the minimum purchase,
those are two separate issues.
and they are being tied together.
Because, at the water managers meeting, if all the water managers or all the people that do attend those meetings, you know, do understand, they could put some pressure on Bosco, you know,
Yeah,
so that Bosco beware type of thing, you know. Maybe this is not as, that's pretty, as being portrayed by the people who benefit from it the most.
so this just came up though, I mean, you know, so the SFPC throwing out the proposal just came up, I wasn't at that meeting, I was off. So it just sounds like it's just, the conversation is just starting, and I don't think that everybody's had an opportunity to really study it yet. I haven't had any conversation with any other managers or anybody else talking about, hey, how do you feel about this? But, you know, our thing would be, again, we just want to make sure that it doesn't affect our ratepayers in a negative way, you know? It's got to be fair, you know?
Yeah,
And
whether it's Tom or whether it's Nicole, I mean, they need to hear it, you know,
yeah, but right now, we're not even clear on the proposal from SFPC, because it was fairly vague, and so they're also just
correct.
spending time trying to understand and work with SFPs to understand what they're even proposing. And then analyze the impacts, and then we'll be able to really look at.
What are the
what
rough,
makes us.
I mean, what's the rough structure of their proposal?
To base it on, recent purchases, like drought purchases, it's truly vague. I can send you the letter.
Yeah, well, the conversation can leave at the basket that there were some elected officials from councils and mayors who were saying, well, here we go again. It's just like when you want to sign the budget, you know, if you don't spend it, that means you don't need it. and you don't get it next year, so what do? You just spend everything you have towards the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, that's the game that, we're going to start playing and,
I mean,
No.
to me, it's like, if they wanna solve this problem, they sell 4 MTD of their ISG to San Jose and Santa Clara, and it goes away. Done. I mean, they can solve the problem, they just
Yeah.
don't have the solution, there's no solution that they want.
Yeah,
So what they want is they wanna solve the problem.
The best of both
at the
worlds.
best of- For the best of their ability, not the best of our ability. There are solutions out there, I don't know. But San Jose and Santa Clara have been wanting their own, they've been wanting a seat at the table with ISGs for a while. I think that they could solve that, and that's not a solution that's acceptable to them, so they don't wanna solve it that badly. Anyway, that would just be, that's what I'm gonna be considering when it comes back to the course, so.
all right, good. Anything else? Good, okay. Very good, okay, Brenda?
yeah, so let's just go to take a look at what's going on water wise in the state and the regional water system. And again, the last few months, well, step back for a second. So this month at the water managers meeting, typically the SFPC makes a presentation of what's going on. They provide some really nice charts that I tend to use here. They didn't do it this month for some reason. I wasn't there at the meeting, I was off. And so I did find some information from a weekly report they spit out there. So some of the graphs and charts are familiar, but they're not in the same format as I used to see them. So I apologize for that. These first few that I have here, like the state of California, these are from a website that the state has and other folks have. So this is the drought as it looked last year in 2022 in July. And again, that's kind of what we've seen, all the weather and the water we had earlier this year in California is sitting pretty good. The same thing with the reservoir water supply, last year, we take a look at, again, up in the upper left, the Shasta Reservoir in the Oroville, the larger ones in the state system and the federal system. They were well below their historical averages, and folks were running scared. And, we had a nice, really wet winter, and now look at them, they're 123% of normal or historical, or 136%. The San Luis Reservoir is almost 200% above historical normal. So things are looking good. And Brandon Lowry, he came in and we were just kind of chit chatting before the meeting. He says, hey, I'm hearing that it's supposed to be another wet winter, and we're talking about the Tulare Lake and so on. And so, we'll see what happens, we'll take more water for a couple of years and maybe fill up some of our groundwater, the water below us. This is one of the charts that said that normally it's nicely formatted from SFPUC, but I just pulled this off a different report that they gave us and it just wasn't as pretty, but it's just a rain index kind of for the Hetch Hetchy regional system there. And I thought it was just nice to kind of point out again, just how much, rain fell in December, January, and March. I mean, just well above what the normal historical weather pattern over a 30-year period looked like, and then here again is the same one. You've seen this one quite often. And I want to point out just a couple of things here, just because I've been listening to a few things, podcasts and so on. And so the upper dot graph up there is 1983 rain chart. And that was one of the years where the Tulare Lake formed, 40 years ago. And then the bright red line is this year. And again, the Tulare Lake formed. Well, I was listening to this podcast here about these two guys from Bakersfield in 1983. They actually took a kayak from downtown Bakersfield in the Kern River, and they floated Kern River into the Tulare Lake, and then found their way in the Kings River, and then got on the San Joaquin River over to Fresno, and took that all the way in the Delta, and then came out to San Francisco Bay. They did it by kayak. It took them 12 days. I thought that was really interesting, but again, it was just one of these times in history where there was just so much water where they could actually do that, so I thought that was interesting to point that out, that we had so much water through the Tulare Lake form, and some people took advantage of it to do something kind of unique that just doesn't always happen, for us. I thought it was really neat. And then just
I agree with the year I moved here from Puerto Rico, we're like, what the?
Yeah.
Also, they were in a kayak, so they could carry it over the top of
Yeah.
some of the levees. To
Yeah.
One lake to channel and so on.
They said that they had made it to Stratford, which is over there in Lemoore, which is over my neck of the woods, and they were just kind of tired of that. Oh, that's kind of enough. And So the guy says, we went to a payphone, right? He didn't have cell phones back in 1983, so they went to a payphone in Stratford, and one of the guys called home and spoke to his father, and he says, yeah, I think we've had enough, Dad. We want to come home. And the dad goes, no, you guys can't come home. People around the country and around the world are listening and watching what you guys are doing. You guys got to go all the way up to the bay. And so they did. It said it took them 12 days. And when they got to the bay, they thought about, kayaking across the bay. It says, no, we've had enough. We're damn tired. But they said they would stop in places. They said they stopped in Fireball, which again is another little community that sometimes I go by. And they got out of their kayaks and they went to a little grocery store there to buy a loaf of bread and some bologna and get some water so that they could have something to eat. And they took some sleeping bags and they would just kind of camp out there. That sounds kind of interesting, but they were ready to go home when it ended, but yeah. And this is just a chart of some rain information. And again, what's interesting, if you take a look at the San Francisco downtown, normal rainfall for San Francisco is a little under 23 inches. This year is 34 inches. Last year at the same, at the end of the 12-month period is 19 inches. I mean, there's just that much rain fell this year, just a lot of rain. Got a lot. And Brandon says we're gonna get a lot more, huh, Brandon? We drown, it's all his fault.
Brandon
said. And then this is just the snowpack up in Hetch Hetchy, the watershed up there. You've seen this. It's been a little bit differently formatted, but again, I pulled this off of something different. So the numbers on the left-hand side, the y-axis just didn't come through with my printer. I apologize for that, but you've seen this enough so you kind of know where we're at. And so the bright red line is again our snowpack this year. And if you remember, I think last month I was mentioning to you that Steve Richard said there was 12,000 CFS falling into the Hetch Hetchy, the O'Shaughnessy Dam, back then. I imagine they're still getting a lot of water coming into the reservoir and coming down the Tuolumne River and so on. But snow starting to fall away. Next time, Lewis, you fly over here in Nevada, so you need to give us a report on what the snow looks like.
Yeah, a couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks. Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear what it looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine water's gonna be in the reservoirs there for a long time. They haven't dropped much in their level. And now's the time of the year that farmers are irrigating their crops. And there's a lot of water use, but there's just still so much water in the system that is still keeping the reservoirs pretty full. And then this is just a picture of the regional water system storage capacity. And again, the one I always kind of point out to you is in the Tuolumne system, the upper part of the table here is the water bank. Last year on the right-hand side, 2022, they had about 230,000 acre feet of water stored there. Steve Ritchie just always concerned at the time. He says, man, if we can't get water in water bank, we're going to be in a world of hurt, Well, thank God we had a wet winter, and so they're full, and they've been full for several months. And I imagine they're going to stay full, the remainder of the water year. So the regional water system is very full and healthy right now from a water storage capacity standpoint. And then this is the regional water systems take on a daily basis. This is like over which period of time the average. But you can see that finally in 2023, that dark black line, we finally crossed over the daily, water use by the system compared to just last year. It just took us finally to the beginning of July to cross that over. Since, before then we were just kind of pretty much under, the water use, and kind of getting back to what Kat was saying. Some of these agencies are seeing that people just aren't using the water yet. They're still having maybe this mindset of trying to be efficient with their water or water conservation. But we finally saw it. And Al, you're going to hear in his report that even though, our water revenues are still a little bit lower, they're just a lot better than what we've been seeing the last few months, So again, maybe people are saying, okay, let's use water again, but let's be efficient with it and just not waste it willy-nilly. Water use in the community, the per capita is 64 gallons per day per person. That's not bad considering it's summertime. I imagine there's people doing a lot of more watering outside than they were several months ago. But you can see the purple line there. We purchased almost 104,000 units of water, compared to last year, 2022 was 109,000. So it's about 5% less. So people are still not using as much water. And again, that's why our revenue has been down, though. We see it's kind of showing that it wants to increase.
So we get consistent, we're still off.
Yeah, Yeah.
or removed.
I've seen some irrigation, at least on the city medians, I know that they're irrigating out there, but yeah, there are a lot of people who just aren't, they just don't feel they have to.
They were watering the streets last night when I went home. Yeah, the asphalt was
Yeah,
soaking
asphalt,
wet
yeah.
on both sides of the median.
Yeah. And then this last graph there is just a cumulative, you've seen this one too, and so, it looks like we're on track to use a similar volume of water as we did last year. We'll see what happens if, water use goes up the next few months, but, we're just kind of tracking along, but even so, last year, the SFPC had a water budget for us. This year they haven't. They just say they just use whatever you're gonna use, just stay within your supply guarantee. And I think most of us had, and we're just kind of tracking along where we're probably gonna use a similar amount of water as we used last year, I think. That's what it's kind of looking like. And I think that's it, unless somebody has a question on something that I was showing here. Just.
I like to start. Super helpful.
Oh, the little
Just the fact that
cumulative?
we continue to do it, and
Yeah.
we did last year and all that kind of stuff. and,
Yeah.
Compared to the cutback.
There, anything for this?
No.
Good report. Thank you, Rita. And now we'll move on to second quarter, the water conservation staff report. Brandon. All right,
So, here we got the quarterly, water conservation staff report that kind of touches on more of the more recent notable activities that have happened here in the district regarding, water conservation. We have about 6 items here. I'll touch on like 3 of them, and if you guys have any questions regarding the other 3, feel free to ask. I'll start with subject 1. It's the native and drought tolerant plant education webinar. Every spring and fall, BOSCA offers all of its member agencies the opportunity to participate in these educational webinars. They provide instructors on various topics. This one pertained to drought tolerant landscapes. So we had this expert landscape architect, Juanita Salisbury. She came in over Zoom and educated these people on various topics on how to improve their landscape, make it more drought tolerant, conserve water, what plant species to use. We had about 25 attendees, and I thought it was a real success. I think it also gave us a platform to promote our rebates, and the lawn be gone kind of tied into there, and the irrigation hardware. And I thought it was overall a successful program, and I look forward to hopefully doing it again on maybe another topic. And then subject to the outreach opportunity with the County of San Mateo's Office of Education. This is one I was really excited about. I feel like here at the district, I've noticed that when it comes to outreach and education, we usually tend to reach out to the kids of younger ages, like elementary schools. And the county reached out to us regarding getting into the junior highs. And so I thought this was a really cool opportunity for us. We developed 2 modules that are going to be in classrooms, hopefully this upcoming school year. And one of them was kind of on the basics of water distribution and how water finds its way from the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir all the way to the taps of their home here in the Bay Area. And the other one was on why water conservation is important for human life and the environment. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about that. And I think it can really put a foot in the door for us to maybe spread to junior high more with more opportunities, or maybe even high school eventually. So I was really excited about that opportunity.
On that one question,
Yeah.
is that gonna hit, is it county, it's office of the county?
Yeah,
Does that hit our junior highs, or is it countywide? How does that get targeted?
it's countywide.
Okay.
So, I mean, hopefully, yes, they haven't released exactly what schools will be included on that specifically, but yeah, countywide.
Okay.
And it's also other organizations here in the county that touch on sustainability, like Impossible Foods, that talks on plant-based food, and the Marine Institute is included as well. So there's other sustainable organizations. Yeah.
So the county develops these curriculum. We participated in the Clean Water one. What Brandon's talking about is there's also another module on sustainable foods. And so these are all offered to all schools in the county, and then those who want to participate do. And they've done similar green careers and programs under previous grants. And those were actually widely adopted even beyond the county. So,
Yeah, that age group usually is, it's a very good target age group, because first of all, you wanna try to educate them when they're still young. And secondly, because they do share that things with the parents. The older kids, they share a lot less with the parents, but when they're young, they nag the parents, more, and so maybe more effective.
something that I think is really exciting is it's not focused on
It's gonna be
just
after you.
UL. The way all these modules that they're developing are they're focused around the green career opportunities. So not just, here's conservation, here's what you can do in the future yourself. So,
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So, and then, subject 4, I touched on some of the other public outreach opportunities and education opportunities we have upcoming. This upcoming week on the 2nd of August, we have National Night Out. And for the first time, we're gonna be participating in their caravan, which I think is gonna be a pretty cool event. We're gonna be following around the other public agencies here in the region, the city, Recology, and we're gonna be visiting various neighborhoods and interacting with the community one-on-one. And we have the opportunity to answer any questions they might have for us, or any concerns they can point out to us. And Kat and Rena here are gonna be at the library holding down the fort over there. Me and Michael from the ops side are gonna be in the caravan. So I think it's gonna be pretty cool.
So explain this caravan, how is it gonna work? It's gonna go around neighbor?
Yeah, there's gonna be various vehicles from the other public agencies. We're gonna follow each other or disperse. And there's set locations throughout the community that we can choose to stop in. And at every stop, there's a gathering of community members and people from the neighborhood. And when we get out the vehicles, they have the chance to come up to us and talk to us and interact and get to know the people that work for their local water agency.
Yeah, so I don't know if we talked about, but so the neighborhood associations are they still part of this, or? Because I remember when I was president of the neighborhood association for a long time, they used to organize this whole thing up by homework tank.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we had water and fire and police and the police dog and all that stuff for National Night Out.
yeah, that's exactly it. I think there's 7 or 8 neighborhood events going on, and there's gonna be.
Okay, so they still do that, okay.
And as far as I
But
know,
the band, this caravan goes to.
To try and touch all those
Yeah.
neighborhood events.
it's not truly a caravan, it's not everyone going at once, and some entities have, like maybe 3 or 4 groups going around. We're only gonna have 1 truck going around, so we're gonna prioritize and kind of hit, neighborhoods where we had, work recently or expected to happen. But yeah, it's gonna be great to actually get out, because I think we've really been at the Carmont Shopping Center and then more recently in the library. So we'll probably meet community members we haven't been
The
able to.
Carmel Shopping Center, is probably one of the best locations, obviously, so. So this caravan idea, is this the first year, or this is, they did it before?
No, it sounds like they've been doing it before. We just had not participated in that way. We just been setting up at the Carmel Shopping
Correct.
Center, right? Having a
Because that's
swag
where
out
most
there.
of the people come.
Right, but I was telling Brandon and Kat, I remember when I first got here in 2015, we were at all the different neighborhoods, there were enough of us who wanted to participate at the staff, whether it's ops folks or people in the office. And I remember my first event was out there at the Hallmark, the Water Dog Park
Yeah.
entrance. I was out there with Henry Young, where other people in other places, I think Tammy and others were probably at the Carmel Shopping Center. The last few times that, I'd gone, I wasn't able to go last year because of COVID, you know, we were at Carmel, that was the only place that we were
I
at.
heard Carmel's not happening this year.
It's the library.
Library is-
Yes,
Last year was
library,
library.
yeah, last
I
year,
was-
this year.
My first full week on the job was National Night Out.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
When you guys came to Hallmark, the Water Dog Lake entrance, I mean, when I used to bring the food trucks there too. Like 2 food trucks, and so people were, you know, getting their hamburgers or their tacos and
Yeah.
it was a big fiesta out there. I don't know if they do it anymore though, but,
Yeah, it should be, I mean, I think all the agencies, like the police chief would make the rounds, the fire truck would come, make the rounds, so I don't know how many. They have, all of the sites are listed on the city website
Yeah.
of the National Night Out. but,
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had a coordination meeting yesterday, if you wanna mention who all was there.
A lieutenant from the police department was there. City of Belmont Parks and Rec was there. Various members, I think, from Public Works. I don't think the fire chief was there, but he was supposed to be. So yeah, Recology is gonna join as well. They weren't at the meeting, but they're gonna be participating as well.
the fire chief is probably busy, they're always busy.
Biased opinion.
Trying to bail on his buddy.
My buddy Ken Thrasher.
Exactly. I know, Ken.
All right,
And then, one of the other public events that I'm excited for, I don't think we've participated in the past, but, we're now gonna be, setting up a booth at the local Belmont's Farmers Market here at the Caltrain parking lot. And our first day there is the 27th of August, so I think in like 3-4 weeks. So we'll be out there, I think from 9 to 1. So, yeah, I'm excited about that. And then subject 6 is an update of how our rebate programs have been going over the last fiscal year. As you can see, the Rachio irrigation controllers, not a hot sell right now. Had 4 people participate in the last year. The lawn be gone is pretty consistent. We've had 5 participants over the last fiscal year, 67 total. And then the rain barrels. I don't know if it's because people didn't realize how rainy it was gonna be over the last year or not. But we've actually had a nice uptick in rain barrel rebates, and so that's looking pretty successful right now.
very good. Excellent, good report.
Thank you, John Brandon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Any comments from Brendan? All right, Brendan, it was good. Thank you. All right. And then John Manager report.
Yeah, so a couple of things on this first page, just wanted to point out, we started our 4-day work week. We began, it was July 8th, so this is our 3rd week going on there, and I think it's been a pretty good success. As you know, we've got some job openings now, and part of the things that we're using to try and message that out there is, hey, do you want to come work someplace where your work week is 4 days? And actually, I've seen a couple of the applicants, and of course, they mentioned that. So it is, I think, of interest. We haven't gone out yet and hit a lot of people that we want to hit. We're going to send out a mailer to a lot of regional water system operators in, here. And so it'll be interesting to see how many people, reply and make that 4 day.
Want to know what I did?
What did you do, Matt? You posted?
I downloaded the list of email addresses from the search from the state.
Yeah.
And I emailed all of them.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Probably some of us here,
Yeah.
but
That's it here.
yeah, that was my idea. I don't know, someone else might have had that idea independently, but
Yeah,
operators here might have gotten some emails from the city of Palo Alto.
Yeah.
I saw the
I
ad
heard
on
they burned them is what I heard.
Yeah.
I haven't heard.
I saw the ads on the Daily Journal a few
Yeah.
times. Does that have any traction at all? Any interest from the Daily Journal?
Can't tell yet.
Yeah, I am told that it has in the past. So might as well hit everyone, but But we emailed every operator in the
Yeah.
general Bay Area.
That's probably the most
We're gonna,
effective.
we're gonna email, the ones from Palo Alto at least 5 or 7.
You should.
And then we'll be sending a postcard out.
Fair enough.
Just, something that just came to my mind with the discussion. Like, I know the city of Belmont on their Instagram, they're like, we're hiring. You know, and they're like, click here for different positions, and I don't know what type of social media presence we have, if that's something.
We
Yeah.
don't, we don't
Or
have.
we can maybe ask the city to piggyback on some of their stuff, maybe in their weekly update or whatever.
We could certainly, the only thing about these positions in particular is we're only looking for certified operators. And so actually you have a list literally of the people who are qualified for the job. And so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's where we're kind of putting our bigger focus.
Sure.
Good night,
Good
Brandon.
night, Brendan, thanks. And then we also are posted to, water district jobs, BC water jobs, government jobs, and kind of the main. Where people with the certification would look, and Bay work, which is specifically Bay Area operators, so.
The other thing I was gonna point out here is we had our 2x2 meeting, but I'll let maybe Lewis or Kathy talk about that under director's reports. But on the next page, just want to remind everybody that we don't have a meeting next month. You're gonna get a break. That's the annual break that we take. On the operations side, do that to me. On the operations side, let's go to, I always like to point out the underground or the location requests. We had 289 requests in June, which is a little bit above our average. And now I've been putting in there the average. We've been averaging over the last 12 months, running 12 months, about 277 per month. So a little bit up, a little bit. It's summertime though, so there's just a lot of activity in the community here, which means we're just pretty active. Fortunately, no water main breaks, so we had one today, but that'll be reported out next month. We did had a couple of service leaks. But the last thing I want to point out here is just a couple of photographs. Michael had his folks working on cleaning the tank. So, here's the Hallmark tanks are physically our largest tanks of system. They're not very tall, but they're very wide. So they each hold about 2.5 million gallons. But over a period of, I want to say maybe 10 work days, it took a while because they're big tanks. There was a crew of people up there just cleaning them. So this is a before tank of a Hallmark, and then the after. Take a look at the job. The guys did a really nice job. We actually, they bought some paint that's used for water tanks and applied it in places where it needed a little bit of touch up, and they removed the rust and the oxidation and coated it. It almost looks brand new. But we noticed that some of the tanks that we have out of service right now on the inside, we've got some corrosion taking place. So, working with Jubin's office to put together a plan and bring to you guys at some point in time here to talk about that, because, the longer they get rusty, the weaker the roof's gonna get, and this is gonna cost more and more money to fix. But anyways, I just wanted to share some of the work with the guys out in the field.
So
So
from my house.
at your house, yeah.
Remember, I sent you the text message. I
Oh,
said, what's
yeah.
going on?
Yeah, yeah.
I hear noise.
High pressure.
Like a water pressure.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was like, yep, that's exactly what it is.
yeah.
Pressure washing. I was like,
Pressure washing and then some
Who
touch
the
up.
hell is up there, So I sent them a text, I was like, yep, you're right.
That's a good place where, you have a safety observation, because the guys had to be, tied down when they're up there, they just can't be walking up there freely. You gotta be up there secure, because you fall off that, it's not gonna be a nice fall to the ground.
It may not be that tall, but it's quite a ways down.
Still hurt.
From the top.
Still hurt.
Yeah.
Any questions or
Yeah.
comments?
Good, good, good.
Right.
Anything for Ryan? Good, thank you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Good job.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got one more thing. Sorry, Kat.
Too late.
We had the tree that fell in the house, right? Over on the export and tank site. So we said, you know what, we need to go out there and we need to do an assessment of our trees. So we hired Calendar and Associates. They're the folks who did the landscape architecture work for the Decovin tanks. Jubin works with them. So we say, hey, let's get those guys. So they went out here at the end of June, over a 2-day period, went to 10 different sites, mainly the tank sites, but some of the pump station sites and so on, and took a look at all the trees. They documented 238 trees that we have on all these different sites, and gave us a report where they tried to rate the trees in priorities. They either said they were in good condition, fair condition, or poor condition. And then they rated them for priority to do something with them and maybe remove them or whatever in terms of it was a high, priority to do something about it, a moderate or a low. And after you go through all their work in the report, there's 9 priority trees at the Exborn site where we had the tree fall on the house that they're recommending that we remove. So I was talking to Kat and we're discussing this and what we want to do is we just want to move forward and start getting some pricing to take care of these trees, because if Brandon's right, we have another wet winter or a stormy winter, we don't need to have another tree that falls on somebody's house, right? So we just kind of want to get out ahead of the game. These folks have gone out there and done the work and identified it. It was within my authority for them to do the work. And we're going to start working on some of these trees so that they don't become a liability for the district. There are some trees that they're recommending that we go out there, maybe thin or prune and so on. So we need to come up with a plan. But in the meantime, there's a number of trees that are potential danger to our neighbors there, and we want to take care of it. So we're going to go ahead and more than likely it's going to come back and be an award of a contract that's above my authority that you guys will have to approve, the board will have to approve. But we want to go ahead and do that while we can, maybe the weather allows us to.
So the most controversial project I've ever done is the bike lane project. The second most controversial project I've ever done is the tree out.
Trees, yeah.
So.
Yeah, we have to follow the rules at the city of Belmont and the city of San Carlos, right?
All that kind of
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
just to make sure that doesn't bite us in the.
Right. Fortunately, these trees aren't considered heritage or, the important type trees. They're eucalyptus trees, but there still is a process. So we have to go through that process. Yeah.
And a couple of those eucalyptus up at Herson don't look very nice.
Yeah. But, actually, even though they don't look very nice, according to the arborist from Calendar, he says, they're not as high a priority as the ones around Export, but yeah, there are some that they're recommending that we remove. But maybe not quite as high a priority at Export, and then just saying there's probably a number of trees where we need to go out there and prune and thin,
And we have the ongoing issue with the encroachment into our right of way up
Yeah.
there that we have to look at the same time.
Yeah.
Right, what does it take to look at these things, and if they are within, where they fall, they are within the reach of reaching a structure, and just remove it. If they fall, they potentially could hit a house or a.
The challenge will be, Louis, that, a lot of times these trees provide the screening, right? And we get people complain that either the tree limbs encroaching on their property, or like right now, the folks in front of the Coven tank, the pine trees that were there, most of them were diseased and dead, and PG&E removed them. Well, we're trying to come up with a plan to come out there and replace some of those trees, because the neighbors there are complaining about seeing the Decoven tanks there in their full, rusty glory, and they want us to do something about that. So it's a kind of, you either win or you lose, you.
Yeah, but definitely you're not going to. You're not gonna replace them with a tree that's gonna grow tall, that
Right.
it could, present a problem, maybe 25 years from now or 30 years from now.
These trees have probably been there for 50, 60 years, been there a long time, and I'm not sure how much work we've done. I know that we respond and we try and take care of issues out there, but it sounds like we need to come up with a plan to better manage the trees we have on our properties. But right now, we've got, a handful that are potentially dangerous and a liability for us, and we need to do something about it to be good neighbors. So I wanted to bring that up. So we're gonna be working on that, and something more likely will be coming back to you folks for an award. Sorry, Kat, your turn.
All right. Assistant GM. All
All
right,
right,
far away.
so, Brenna mentioned the 4-day work week is in full effect, and unfortunately, 1 week's not here, probably worn out from all of the work. Because really the heavy lifting was done by her and her team to get it all done. So, certainly, I think we all need to thank her for her work on it, all the nuts and bolts that actually made it happen. So, several of these things were already mentioned, including the operator, but we've already gotten some qualified applicants, and it's been out less than, the ads have been out less than a week, so that's great news. We have our next Unity lunch coming up next week. It's been hard to schedule with everyone's vacations, including my own, starting next week in the middle of next week. And we have an operator, Ryan Gomes, who is expecting a baby, so we're gonna be able to celebrate that. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
That's nice.
And then Michael Anderson has actually set up and arranged, Clint came back to come back out here and to train us on this concept of working genius, which I'm eager to learn. I don't know much about it. But he learned that through his CSDA leadership course and thought it would be a great thing for the team. Darylene rehab project is ongoing. And we've been, having a lot of meetings with other agencies. We've talked with One Shoreline, and the City Development Planning Department and, the city, the planning department seems, very supportive and definitely willing to work with us, which is great, of course. And we'll be talking a little bit more, with Public Works next week, particularly around, flood and storm water issues. So keep going. We have some general concepts and once we get the concepts really fleshed out and have some rough cost numbers, then we'll bring those to you to discuss the trade-offs and we were talking about maybe doing a study session to really get into it and also, seek your input on particularly some of the beautiful boardroom and all of that. But it's going well and what we are envisioning will need to fit all of our needs in does seem like it's gonna be fine with zoning and planning and feasible. So this is all good news.
Yeah.
Pacing service line replacement project is done, substantially complete. There's little cleanup things so there were a couple of change orders, but with balancing change order, it actually reduced the budget by $46,000. So we're actually going to come in right at or a little under the total budget. So that's great news. And I think it's been a good project and people have been happy with it so far. Except for the one customer who really wanted her concrete replaced.
I want my concrete patch. Okay. Cool.
So those are the primary things in my report. Any questions from my notes?
Good picture. Okay, things are. Cool. It'll be slur seal, curve to curve.
Yeah,
All right. Thank God the slur sealing is not that expensive in comparison. All right, cool. Next.
well, Monique's not here, but here's her administrative services report. So she's got her table there on the number of accounts, and there's just been a slight change, slight decrease between May of this year and June of this year. The total number of accounts, not, so not significant. And then I think maybe just on the second page, in terms of the public service ethics and sexual harassment, it looks like we're all okay. A couple of us, including myself, our sexual harassment, we've got to get that done before the end of the year. So I see that Ike showed up on there. Brian Schmidt shows up there in December as well. Lewis, yours is in November is due, and Kurt's yours is due the same time as mine in December. So, we need to keep an eye on that, make sure that we get or spend our 3 or 4 hours or whatever it is and get that ethics or sexual harassment certificate.
Cool. Any more issues on the situation with the guy that came in?
The guy that came in.
The guy that we gave him a fine, and him and his wife came in and they went over to their lane, they came here somewhere else.
No,
And then I called him and,
yeah, no, we haven't heard any more from him. Yeah, I think his money said he left here happy. He was rather upset when he showed up. But we were able to resolve, and then I think, I'm sure talking with you was a great.
so after my conversation with him, then within a year, okay.
Yeah.
Or from any others like him, because remember the thing was, other people like him also that,
None that I'm aware of, and for those, I guess, who don't know the details, because I think only you know the details.
yeah, okay, so what we're talking about is that the customer sent the payment, and because of we relocated this payment, he put it in a box, right?
Yeah, well, no, this is the real odd thing, is he submitted his payment by mail to our lockbox account in LA, actually, where it goes. And for some mysterious reason, it got returned by the postal service. And we haven't heard of any other customers that this has happened to, so it's weird flow with postal service. that's what started it. So he got a late fee for not paying his bill, even though he did. And we initially did not provide him the greatest customer service. So, he was understandably upset. And he initially went to the Dairy Lane office. And then had to find his way here, which did not, alleviate any of his concerns. So, but it was resolved and, certainly his late fee was replaced or refunded. And, yeah, and we're working on the.
Yeah,
customer
it's
service
important
issues
to me
happened for sure.
that we don't know of any others that this
No.
can happen with the mix up
No.
of the lockbox.
And it's one of these things we'll never know unless they come to us. But we're certainly very attuned if there's anything that seems like that.
Yeah, well, the
have a
red
bunch of
flags
late
will be
fees.
the one that occurred in the late fee, that will be,
And I don't think there's been any increases in number of late fees. So.
all right. Very good. Thank you. Next, district engineer. Brendan.
Fantastic. Good to be back. I haven't seen a lot of I don't think I've been here for about a year. So it's
We're still the
a
same.
little all, yeah, interesting. Just a few updates. The primary one is the Harbor Boulevard Water Main improvements. This project, took a while to get off the ground. It was awarded in December, contracts and everything completed in January, and then we had I think it was February, we had the pre-con
Yeah.
meeting. And the reason for the delay was just materials and the supply chain. And we broke ground on June 5th. And as of late June, installed roughly 700 linear feet of pipe. Not as much as we would ideally hope. And that's unfortunately due to hard rock and excavating conditions that we yet again experienced. If you recall, we ran into this on the Hastings project. Kind of unexpected out here on Harbor. Unfortunately, the soil is what it is, and so that kind of leads into the pending change order. It has delayed the contractor. They're about a week behind in total working days, but as far as their production rate on what they could get. We're negotiating with them in a similar manner as how we did on the Hastings project to come to a amicable cost. And yeah, great pictures that kind of show the conditions. In all my experience, I haven't seen rock like this on the projects that I've been involved with. And so it's kind of surprising. Yeah, it's surprising to come see it over here. But as you can tell from the pictures, very jagged, very difficult to excavate. They have to bring out special equipment, specifically a hole ram to actually kind of chip out the rock instead of using a regular excavator bucket. But all in all, they are progressing. If you go out there today, they've gone almost to
Industrial.
Yeah, so they've done about 2/3 of the primary water main, and they have about 700 feet or so left, and then it's onto appurtenances. So that's it on the Harbor project. So again, just back to the change order, that will be forthcoming, and we're negotiating with C2R. The DeKalb Lincoln Newlands project, 95%, we reviewed those plans and we met with the designers. And we're hoping to have the design complete by the end of September. Old County Road. Contracts with the consultants have been signed. I think I saw in your report that maybe by the time this was done, you were still under signature, but as far as I understand that they're.
Well, so
Almost signed.
the contract with all the consultants, Schaffen Wheeler, Four Leaf and Packboard, those are all signed. Julie brought over the contracts for the contractor because they needed to get signed, so we'll be signing those and getting those all out, so everything can be signed, and so now it's ready to have the discussion with the contractor when they're gonna be ready to start.
Fantastic, and we anticipate early November start. Cause it's the same contractor that will be on Old County's currently on Harbor, so we anticipate them just taking that crew and moving over here.
Yeah.
And they
So they're
probably.
gonna start in November, when you predict lots of rain, is that it?
Yeah, well, construction for water main
What's
doesn't,
up with that?
They're
doesn't
digging it
stop in
rock.
the winter.
Yeah, they're digging it rock.
Yeah.
Well, this
Well,
is
hope
the
it'll
job.
soften, you know.
This is the job where there could be a lot of night work because of Old County Road is so busy that, yeah.
Yeah.
Pipe renewal analysis, Juben is actually working on that, and it's under review. And then we plan to come to the board at the September meeting to present that. And then, you know, the issues that have come up with the hard rock on the Hastings project and now the Harbor Boulevard project, we've reached out to a couple geotechnical engineering firms to see how can we, you know, protect ourselves moving forward. You know, so we don't have this unexpected cost increase,
Yeah.
you know, try to mitigate that as much as possible. So we're kind of trying to take a proactive approach at this point to see if there's any historical information that can aid us in the future and what we can do to combat that. So.
Have you guys thought about like whether or not you can do any kind of ground penetrating radar on this to see if you just like the density of it is just through the roof?
I mean, that's something that we can certainly look into, and I'm assuming that that's something that the geotechnical engineers can help with or guide us, you know, along that path. And it's certainly a possibility we could, you know, have that part of the design budget, especially for areas like Hastings where, you know, you're installing the main on the cut side.
Right.
And if you kind of see outcroppings, yeah, maybe it's worth, you know, looking into that. I know we've used ground penetrating radar for utilities.
Utilities.
I personally haven't used it for hard rock, and I don't know if it would have the same.
Yeah, I've used it to find tanks, I've used
Return.
it to do all kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
utilities mostly. But it does pick up differences in below ground density, so,
Yeah,
you know, if you're able to somehow calibrate that to some sort of fill, and then you go.
Sure.
Stuff starting to go through the roof.
yeah,
Just the thought.
Looking at the concrete structure of the roadway on the harbor, I'm not sure how well.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Penetrating radar.
It's like
Yeah.
10 inches. I don't know, what's the thickness of that out there, 10, 12?
It looks like 10 or 12.
It's
Yeah.
pretty- yeah.
So, I mean, that's,
It's gonna be
you know,
done.
one of many things that we could possibly look
Yeah.
into. So, you know, that's.
Is that
part
gonna
of-
be an extra cost too, you know, Brandon, that contractor having to, you know, cut through that thick asphalt there?
The specs generally and the details generally specify how thick
Yeah,
they need to go.
yeah,
And usually it's around, I think it's up to, you know, 12 inches. And at times, if it is deeper, then again, we will negotiate.
Yeah.
Because they're probably anticipating to cut 6, 8
right,
inches.
right,
So they have to bring out a different machine, bigger blade
right,
to go deeper.
yeah,
Production slows and,
right.
yeah,
But I mean, that is the county standard backfill, right? It's like 12 inches of concrete on top of AC, at least every time I've done work in the county.
And this is our first project with the county because Harbor has just a small section. Where everywhere else is city owned, I believe, and this is just kind of an isolated pocket
Unincorporated.
of unincorporated.
Well, this is the unincorporated
Yeah.
county, yeah, this is the part that the city's looking to annex, right, the harbor industrial area,
Yep.
yeah, harbor
Yeah,
boulevard.
so, yeah, so we've learned some things just in this area on, you know, for future projects on what, you know, possibly pay attention to. Other than that, any questions?
Yeah. Good. Any questions for Brandon? Good, we're good? Okay, Brandon, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alan,
Okay. Well, I'll start my report expanding a little bit on the first bullet. I make the point that the budget presented today, even though it's through June 30th, they're not final numbers. Bills still come in and, you know, of course, has to be paid. To that end, I did run a trial balance this morning with today's figures. So I can say that we picked up about a little less than 17,000 in revenue over the numbers in the budget. And about 84,000 in expenditures, the largest portion of which was utilities at 32,000. Professional services was about 20,000. About 12,000 more in flood recovery, and then smaller amounts. It still left a surplus of 1.9 1,961,000. So a net change of about 67,000 as far as that goes. So not great numbers, you know, at this point, there'll still be a little bit of change, but it's not going to be large. And then the next point was touched on by Rena. June's revenue was still lower than budgeted, less than previous months. If you look at the graph, the space between the budgeted amount and the actual is much smaller than it was last month. And I did look at July's revenue today, and it's about 7,000 under budget, so virtually on budget. When you're talking about $1 million of revenue, 7,000. And actually, I haven't updated the database that's used to pick up the average per month. And if that were done, meaning drop the first year, which if memory serves is fiscal year 17-18, replace it with fiscal year 22-23, we'd actually would be slightly over budget. I'm talking a couple thousand, but going from being 100 or more thousand under budget in revenue to hitting it obviously is a good sign. How much of that is the weather? Because I know in our area we had the coolest June on record. As far as that goes, so people weren't watering, especially after a wet winter and everything. So hopefully the water revenue will pick up as far as that goes. And then I just go on and mention, the interest revenue market gain did really good this year. The only one other thing I wanted to mention that will have a not impact on revenue because it's not revenue, but included in the operating expenses is over 150,000 of flood expense, actually over 200,000 in flood expenses that'll be reimbursed. There's we did pick up the other 11,000, but so we're up to about almost 120,000, just in flood recovery, 116,000. There's also over 40,000 in overtime, and the office rent here, which is roughly 12,000 a month, will be reimbursed too. So it's actually, the numbers make it look worse than it really is. And by that, you are looking at a $1.9 million surplus as far as that goes. So obviously the year is going to be a good year in that regard.
On the flood cost, are we seeking FEMA reimbursement?
No, because our insurance is covering it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we started down that path, and then when our insurance confirmed that, that we did.
So then the insurance will, maybe go after FEMA money?
No, it's always insurance and then came out. And I won't, so I still don't expunder the number, but we are close to coming, landing on a number with the insurance company. It's pretty good, so.
Very good, they don't have it already.
Well,
They raise our rate, we say, how come, there's no money.
Well, the rates are based on the whole pool.
Yeah, you say the whole pool,
rather
yeah,
than just us.
and it wasn't just us that had, challenges.
That's true, but I do know last year, right when I first started, I think the first week, met with the insurance rep. And he informed us we had a 93,000, I believe it was 73 or 93, I think $93,000 payment because of the claims. They didn't raise the rates per se, but it was a one-time payment
Gave us back
in
money.
lieu of raising the rates. because we'd been higher on our claims than
Sure.
the other agencies in the pool as far as that goes on average,
Yeah.
as far as that goes. So
Well, what I'm-
yes, a big claim does,
If you have claims and
Yeah.
the insurance is your only resource of capturing some of that money,
Yeah.
that's one thing. But if you have, there is a claim that there's FEMA money involved too, you know. That was my point.
yeah,
All right,
okay. And I think that's about it. I was talking with James about, various spreadsheets I show to prove, the numbers are right and whatnot, and, we're in pretty good shape as far as, being ready for the audit and that. Looks like I said, there's still work being done, invoice came in yesterday for April work.
Yeah.
We just haven't been billed as far as that goes, but yeah.
very good, Alan. Thank you. We're going to miss you, right?
If it weren't for the drive.
Well, we cannot move any closer to you.
Yeah.
Something's gotta give.
All right, any questions for Alan? We're good. This is very comprehensive. Thank you, Alan.
Okay, thanks.
Very good reporting. Thank you very much. Well explained. Good, thank you. All right, and this is the GM. Review alternative expenditure report format.
Yes, so, the original request for this to look at, options for alternative ways for the expenditure report came from, Director Wheeler a while back. And so, we put together this format, in the attached. And we did, show it to the finance committee, and got their feedback, but we wanted to get, feedback from the whole board. So, there's a couple differences in this format from what you're not used to seeing. What you're used to seeing is, really just a check date and the vendor name and amount, of course. So this adds in, our AP account number and description. And it also has, the, more detailed description. This comes out of Springbrook. This particular format comes out of Springbrook, and it needs some massaging in Excel before it can be quite like this. And, we spent some time also looking at kind of what other agencies around, do for their expenditure reports. Some do very similar to what we have been doing with just bare bones, like Percival Hills, really just vendor and amount, same with Westboro. The mosquito district that I'm a part of does do much similar to what we're presenting here, where it does have the account number and the description. And then you have, North Coast has, more detailed accounting. So, and then, we also asked, James and Al what their experiences have been, and similar, it tends more to the bare bones kind of version that we've been doing. So.
Yeah, I've typically seen something like what's in here, just sorted by check number. But yeah, just a general description and the vendor name, account number, date.
Exactly. Yeah. This is better.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I like to hear.
So the question to the board in general is how do you want to see it? Is this too much information, too little information? The invoice description can be rather detailed, so like 9-volt battery, this, that. And sometimes it's more vague and, that's generally fine for our purposes because we also have the invoice, but.
And there's also limitations on what can be input into Springbrook. It can only put out what.
So many
you put in.
How much detail?
Too many characters.
Yeah,
When you are describing it.
yeah, I don't know the AP modular that well at all, as far as that goes, but last year I asked, can additional description be put in, and was told that no, it's, it duplicates, because there's a shortened vendor name, a short code, and then
Yeah.
it prints out the whole vendor name. Which is useful, having the vendor name, but being able to put, buying a meter, or buying, the special paint
Yeah,
or
yeah.
anything like that, that system doesn't allow it, I guess,
Mhm.
as far as that goes.
So, yeah, the description is, obviously very useful for whoever is going to, approve the checks especially, and look at the expenditures so that they would have a better idea of what they're, because, my signature goes on, or your signature goes on, and, Kurt, what do you think?
Well, I think it's certainly a start, and I don't like the idea that we have to massage it in Excel type of thing, and so yeah, it would be nice if Springbrook could put out something that was similar, that included the invoice description, and maybe we don't need all the invoice number and that type of thing. What was nice was being able to go, okay, this whole group at the top was payroll related, and what they're going to, some of it is benefits, some of it is actual ADP numbers and so on. And so you can go down that list and sort of have them lumped together and go, oh yeah, these are the ones we're paying. Because we don't see that very well in that just, what do you want to call it, calendar list of checks. Because we would see ADP every week gets a
Yeah,
check.
yeah.
And it's not clear, are they linked and are they the same thing and so on. So this I find more useful. It would be nice if it was a little less terse, but it's hard to, I don't know exactly what Springbrook will give us that's a little easier to read. It may just be a matter of deciding which fields are useful.
Yeah.
So then the obvious question is, how much more time is staff time is this taking to produce it? Because if it's taken an enormous amount of time, because Springbrook does not take it and you have to massage it, I'm with you when I start hearing that stuff, it's like, oh, what have we created,
Well, I think the question we pose is, because I know, James, your team has Springbrook experts, is could we get a custom report set up?
Yeah, and it could be something as simple, I don't know what, so we do have an expert, and then I can talk to him, and it might be just linking two separate reports. That will bring over the system descriptions into this. And then sort of whatever, however you decide, if you want to do by check number, if you want to do it by vendor name, vendor, however that looks like. So we definitely have those resources that I'll start with our Springbrook expert and see what reports that we can run and start sampling. Maybe we just provide samples over the next few months of, hey, does this report look like?
Least amount of work, the least amount of damage that would be.
Right, and-
my preference,
Yeah.
obviously.
We don't see the monthly detail. The financial reports that we get every month just compare to budget.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're not seeing what we're spending under budget categories, so we don't really know that, gee, we're spending this amount of money this month on a particular category, whether it's health insurance or it's liability insurance, or it's something that only comes along once a year or twice a year, or those types of things. And so being able to track some of those checks and sort of say, okay, I understand what we're doing. We're paying this money to ADP, and we're paying this money to help people, and this money to so on. And it's all lumped together in this category that appears 1 of 10 on our budget categories type of thing. Because the list of checks is really confusing to me. just get these little short things and some people's names or whatever, and it's just sort of, I don't know what we're spending this money
Yeah,
on.
just.
And
money's going.
this at least gives us a chance to say, oh, these are all from Ace Hardware, and this is all from Home Depot, and the guys just say, oh, it was equipment for a truck, or it was various things, and you get it. And, you know, some things are for travel expenses, some things are for the credit cards. Those, I think, are a little harder to track here because they're just looked. But that's what the staff is for in terms of reviewing the credit card information
Yeah.
and allocating it to particular categories. Some,
Yeah, yeah, when. Before anything is approved for payment, you know, the approving person. Looks at, has the invoice in front of them,
Right.
you know, with the detail, so, yeah, that's a valid expenditure.
right, and I don't wanna inflict on the board the concept of, yes, you should know what everybody spent on each credit card or whatever. That's not my intent. My intent was to sort of be able to go down this list and say, oh, we're spending this big chunk of money on certain things, and those are the things that we're looking at when we come back to the budget numbers. And which ones are separated, because we have budget numbers for direct salaries, we have budget numbers for benefits that are in various categories, and so on. And being able to get a sense of what that's getting spent for is useful.
Yeah.
And I would hope that some of the customers who might actually pay attention to some of our reports would be interested in where we're spending the money. But if we're going to have disclosure, I'd rather have it in enough detail that somebody who's not involved in the accounting system understands what it is.
So essentially, if I'm understanding correct, the ultimate goal is to tie the detail, this detail to the, like, almost categorize it by budget category.
It would be at a finer level, but it basically is.
Yeah, so tie like this 1,094 utilities to a particular budget category that you would have. I was looking at, I picked a random page.
Right.
But tie it to like a specific budget line item that the board had approved.
Not this, well, I mean, we only have a certain number of things in the budget.
Right.
Okay, that we categorize it as.
Yeah.
And this is more intended, I think, to give a customer or a voter an opportunity to say, okay, they're really disclosing what they're spending, and they're telling me in some form that I can see what it is they're spending it on. Okay, that these are the people who are getting checks. These are what they're getting the check for, and they're in a particular category in the accounting system that the board is paying attention to. Not necessarily that the board's going to look at every single check, but we do sort of go, what's this code? I've never seen that code, or I don't remember that code, and then you have to sort of guess at what it was, type of thing on the other level, and you don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Anybody carrying that beeping?
Yeah.
We're done, we're supposed to wrap up now.
Not sure what that is. So I guess what I'm hearing is that we will spend some time, figure out what we can get out of Springbrook, and bring you some other reports.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that, you know, this was not intended to create,
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
Good, okay, I understand.
Cost benefit.
Yeah, cost
Because
benefit,
that-
yeah.
we just got this, so. All right, very good.
Good.
Thank you. All right, director's report. Sure, you have the floor. And I think,
Other than tonight's board meeting, it's the only one, HIA was on. last
that's
night.
right, yeah. Cool.
And, what is it? HIA ended last month, and the finance committee was actually in last month.
Matt? anything?
I'm on vacation next couple weeks, so out of cell phone range.
Out of
So Paul, or Paul, I don't care.
Text you.
Dude,
I don't even know if I have your phone number. Maybe I should get it just so.
yeah.
Just a mess with
Okay,
you.
well, that could cut both ways. Next time you're in Italy, I'll make sure that I call you at 8 AM here.
All right, cool. Kathy?
Well, we could talk about,
Yeah, go ahead. I'll-
Louis and I participated in the 2x2 with the city of Belmont earlier this week with Kat and Rena. And the two council members were Vice Mayor Hurt and then Councilmember McCune, along with City Manager Ashton. I always mess up his last name, Escuri,
Gooey.
Escuri. Peter, the Public Works Director.
Peter Brown,
The Assistant Public Works Director.
Tracy Scamaglia. Scramaglia. He used to work with her, yeah.
And I think that was it, that was there. I thought it was a really good meeting. They were, the council was really happy, at least the two council members were happy that we were meeting again. We spent some time talking about when the last meeting was, and it went way back. So.
Lewis was a child.
I wasn't on the board.
You weren't on the board. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and the council were still meeting at the Twin Pines Center or something.
Yeah,
Oh my
and let's be
God.
clear, I joined this board when I was 35, so that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
my God.
Sorry, that was 15.
Yeah, but I think, it was a good meeting. We talked a lot about the partnership and the positive aspects of the working relationship that we have with the city. And I think as we close the COP and we start looking at future projects, the city is going to share with us their 5-year plan as well to see if there's any joint projects we can do together. We emphasized that we're partners with them. And I think that they were agreeable to that in terms of the collaboration. And did commit, as Louis mentioned earlier, that we'll make this at least an annual thing. You know, the staff will still continue to meet quarterly, but at least from the policymaking perspective, that the two bodies should actually meet once a year. We also talked about presenting an update at a future council meeting, maybe in the fall, and then again in the spring. I think is what you said, Rena, that we would do that in the spring as
Yeah,
well.
maybe after we know what our water supply is gonna look like, just share that with the council and the community. Lots of people tune into the TV, so it might be a good thing to share with them, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing we talked to them about is, they have a weekly update. If there are things that we want to promote, that we don't have the same reach with the community, that we can add it to their weekly newsletters or, whatever, if we want to ever piggyback on their Instagram, but just different ways that we could work together, because we largely serve the same community. I mean, we have a little bit more than they do, but in large part, we serve the same community and want to make the best use of the taxpayer dollars and the ratepayer dollars at the same time. So I was pleased with the meeting. I'll leave some of the other issues that we talked about. Louis can talk about them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think most of it was covered, but the big takeaway was that sometimes it's amazing how come, we do our thing, the city does their thing. And from the operational side, I know they get together, but from the policy side, it's just like they know so little, about, we know probably more what they do because, there's the TV coverage, there's the newspapers, but they know so little about what we do from a policy standpoint. And I think that, not that this meeting is going to solve everything, however, it is a good way of bringing the two bodies together. As a matter of fact, what I suggested was that when we meet, even if we do not have an agenda, we will meet, just because we are serving, 90% is the same communities, 90% is the same terrain, it's the same we use the word sandbox, it's the same trenching and, you know, we need to know more of how they feel about us and they should do the same thing for us, so. But as far as the nuts and bolts of it, you know, they have to be done at the operations side and what we heard from the meeting was either, both from Kat Loretta and also from Peter Brown that, it looks like, and Action. And he was pretty comfortable with how often you guys coordinate the work in the field together, you know, so that's good. And then when we get to the citywide things like the National Night Out or, you know, some of the events that the city has, that we are part of that as well. Because many people, you know, don't know where the line is, and so something happens with the water, they call, as this guy, the example that we brought, you know, he was gonna go to the city, you know, to ask the city what's going on and all that, when obviously the city had no idea how to solve it. We were the ones that had to solve it, or the lady with the concrete patch on Hastings, she was gonna go to the council, and I said, no, I don't think so. They're not gonna know what to do, you know, so you come to us, you know, so. But for the public out there, we don't expect the public to know exactly everything, you know, but we expect the city to know, so that when they receive the phone call, they would know how much or how little they should engage, and they send it to us, you know, so. So that was kind of the what came out of it, that I enjoyed the most, you know, and we got to know each other and they a little bit better, so that was good. Yeah. Anything else? Was that? Oh, the EOC? Yeah, that's right, yeah, we did talk about operation of the EOC Center. Because in the past, I know we always had a seat at the EOC table, whether it was an exercise or whether it was a real emergency or whether it was a precautionary. Every time they opened the emergency office center in Belmont, we had a staff member that goes there, you know. And apparently that hasn't happened for a while, and I brought that thing to everybody's attention that needs to happen. And because you know, water issues are obviously, you know, part of whatever the community, our constituents could, you know, need assistance with, and they probably would, you know, so. I don't know what else, that's it? Probably covers it.
That's it.
But I think it was good.
Yeah,
It was a
a good meeting.
It was a good meeting.
It was a
I'm
good
glad it happened, you know, finally. I've been trying for a long time.
Have to thank Kathy for doing it, because she's the one that reached out to the mayor and said, hey, you know, because I had been, you know, as soon as you guys told me, I'd been contacting Ashton's office, hey, you know, the board wants to know when we can meet, you know, 2x2. Oh, we're working on it, you know, no, it's just a matter of trying to get everybody's calendar together. It wasn't getting anywhere, which is a typical kind of response. I remember Tammy told me that she would get, you know?
Yeah.
So Kathy says, let me contact the mayor. I know her personally, and she did, and I mean, I got the ball rolling, you know, even then, you know, shortly after that, we agreed that it was gonna be at the end of July. We would try and hold this 2x2 meeting, and sure enough, you know, at the end of July, we were able to meet. It happened really quickly last week, seemed
A
like.
call
Hey,
from the mayor to the city manager goes a lot further than a call from you to the city.
that's right, yeah, that's right.
And I doubled down, I texted the vice mayor too.
Right.
Yeah,
No, they're completely open to it.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
They're not resistant. I think it's just schedules and what's in, you know, what's high on the priority list for the city at the time, but. You know, Vice Mayor Hurt asked for a copy of our strategic plan.
Yeah.
She just was, she's like, how long is it?
A lot shorter than it used to be.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be good.
Let's see if she picks up on that word home.
I know, right? Ham.
Put an A in there, Kat, make sure it's an A.
So hopefully, you know, next time, we'll be able to tell them, hey, listen, this is what you promised, so. You know, we'll be in a better position for them to come in.
Yeah.
Lean on them.
Well, I mean, Julie is mayor for 2 years. It's a 2-year term.
Oh, that's right.
So, you know, if we have any challenges next year, she's gonna still be the mayor.
All right,
I get it wrong, yeah.
cool. Okay. All right, what else? Communications? Anything? Rena, okay,
Not from staff.
communication. All right, cool. And that's it. We go to closed session. All right, thank you all very much. Thank you, Al, good seeing you. Thank you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Brandon, good to see you again. Likewise.
Yeah, Juvens and.
Reconvene to
We're
open
gonna be into open
session,
session.
and there is no reportable action,
Okay,
and we are adjourned.
and we are adjourned. Do we have, we don't need a motion for that, right?
No.
We are adjourned. There you go.
Video.
Miss.
All right,
All right.
thank you.
Okay, we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.